Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fleet's Random Ramblings. As per usual, you know the drill. Leave your questions in the chat, and hopefully the bot will pick them up as best it can. You know the drill. Hopefully the bot's working. It should be. Yeah, it should be. Let me just check. Boop. Beep, boop, boop, beep. Okay, yep, the bot is working. That's good. There we go. Okay, bot's now open. Jolly good. Right, okay. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, Patreon question from Timu. I know he wanted to try and see if James could get in, but I think, judging by I'm looking, yeah, James isn't online, so we'll have to field this normally, but that's fine. There we go. There we go. Timu Locker asks on Patreon, what does the panel make of modular warship design? The idea that you can swap in different mission modules for weapon sensors and other kit depending on the job. Is it genuinely a smart way to build a fleet, or just naval Lego with fewer instructions and far higher consequences if you lose a piece? Well, it's definitely not that latter option. That is one thing it definitely isn't. These are navies, not children. You're not going to lose a piece of a modular warship. That's just... No. That's not... No. Give modern militaries a little bit more credit than considering them to be small children with guns. Secondly, if we're talking about modular warships, I think there definitely is potential. Maybe not. I know it was dark humor, but I couldn't resist. So yeah. Yeah, modular warships is definitely something that's coming, especially for mid-range combatants in particular. I can definitely see frigates going that way. Maybe corvettes are probably too small for that, but destroyers you probably want to spec properly. Corvettes you have to because of the size of them and the weight and the way weight will be affected by tonnage, given the size of them. But frigates you can probably configure.
I think you're going to have to be incredibly careful when designing the interfaces.
No more careful than you would have to be with any other modular system in any other part of the world. You just need to make the most important thing is to make them robust. Make them robust and
make it robust, but you also.
And if you're part of an alliance structure, make it so that if the other people are also building modular ships, you all standardize.
The thing I can very easily see happening is not in this generation, but in 2 or 3 generations, outgrowing the interface, and you've got enough existing stuff using it that you're not willing to part with it.
I would argue that that's always been a case, and it's not really, and you can't really use it as a mark against. That's like saying
I am all for modularity, don't get me wrong. I am just saying you are going to have to be very, very, very careful to try and include spare capacity when you're designing the standard.
Yes and no. I can see where you're coming from, but I would point out that that would probably be what you would do anyway. And also...
Let me put it this way. It should be what they do anyway. I'm just concerned about it being costed out.
And even if they don't, that's still the same as building a non-modular warship with... This isn't a modular exclusive problem, basically, is what I'm saying. It's not it's not a. I can see why you've brought it up, but it does feel that you probably didn't intend it this way. But it almost feels like you're trying to make a modular specific problem something that isn't a modular specific problem.
Hey, as I had,
It's not.
you are
it's
aware
just
you haven't
something that
started.
I see a lot.
I know.
You
I'm
are
dragging-
aware you haven't actually started the stage, right?
Yeah, I know.
So it hasn't alerted anyone.
We've just been going on, so I was going to get to it in a second.
The only reason I realized it was even happening was because of Discord's streamer bot.
Yes, Gunnery Officer, they were supposed to be modular, but honestly, LCS were just too small. Far too small for modularity. There is a lower size bracket where I think it just becomes your ship is too small to have realistic
it depends
modularity.
what you're trying to modularize as well.
I'd say, quite frankly, it doesn't really matter. I think below a certain point, you lose the benefits.
Well, okay, I can see, like, if below a certain point, yeah, cost of replacement gets down to the point where it doesn't matter. You're going to be replacing them frequently enough anyway.
Yeah. Like, LCS is just too small. It's for what they're trying to modulate. They were farcically too small, because replacing a module on an LCS basically meant replacing half the bloody ship, which is just that's not what modular warship should be. That's too
Okay.
It's too much. Yeah, so like I said, stuff like frigates. Frigates are a very good candidate for it. They're big enough that it's useful, but not so big that you're gonna miss principal combatants being down for like a week or two while you're switching modules around. So, for example, I would say there is also an upper size bracket. You probably wouldn't want modular destroyers or cruisers, for example, if cruisers even exist in the modern era, but just for argument's sake, let's roll with the term. And you definitely wouldn't have a modular bloody aircraft carrier.
No. Oh, well,
But
here's what I'm going to say. Probably not.
yeah, this is why
Because
the
it also depends on what sort of modules you want to be able to swap in.
Yeah, this is
yes, a modular hangar.
Let's say you're looking at a secondary capability. So like some sort of some sort of advanced signals interception sensor suite, or signals intelligence stuff, and you make that a modular system that can be plugged or unplugged as needed. You would still probably want to be able to fit that to a destroyer or a cruiser. So yeah, maybe it's not a central part of their design, but I would still say you probably want them to be able to accept a couple of modules of whatever your system is. And again, a lot of this is going to really depend on implementation and what they're looking to do with this modularity. Are you looking at modularizing those sorts of secondary niche roles, or are you looking to modularize something more central like your weapons suite?
You probably shouldn't be looking to modularize your weapons suite. You should probably be looking to modularize. Well, depends. I would say no modularization of weapons. That would be, given the substantial weight of a lot of these, especially like VLS and Toad sonar arrays, things like that. You probably don't want to be looking to modularize that.
I think VLS is modularized.
Yeah, with
enough.
That's not really modularization on LCS, Gunner Officer. That's fitted for but not with. That's different. Because once they've put Hellfire VLS on the LCSs, they've never removed it. So that's more a case of fitted for but not with, rather than modularity.
because the reason I brought up weapons is because one of the things that I was sort of thinking, I don't know how you would implement this, but back how in the Age of Sail you could just crane cannons on and off ships to change up your armament, and whether or not that might be a possibility, I don't know if it is, but
could to a limited degree.
yeah,
but
Technically,
weight
yes.
concerns are a thing.
It wasn't. You could to a
There's
limited.
technically nothing stopping the Japanese from changing out the Mogamis main guns again
But also
in the middle of the war.
But even in the Age of Sail, ships were configured a certain way to carry certain weight of cannon.
Yeah.
You can't, for example, put 32 pounders on the upper deck of HMS Victory. The hull won't stand it. It's not possible. The place of Victory's heavy guns is a lower gun deck. That's the only place on Victory you can put them. You can add a bunch of swivel guns and light.
I'm thinking about. What was it he did in the first Master and Commander book? I'm trying to remember.
Either way, we should probably crack on.
We should move on, yes.
Yeah. Typical Officer asks, what if the US lend-leased the Allison engine Mustang and A-36 Apache to the USSR? Could the Russians use it well against the Germans? Do you think the Allison engine can make a difference on the Eastern Front? I mean, the Russians are not going to say no to any additional thing with an engine that flies. Like, they're just categorically not going to. You might see them used as ground attack aircraft, as they were historically by the US. You might see them. A lot of the air combat on the Eastern Front was lower altitude.
Low altitude, yeah.
So they might fit in better there, but they are up against some of the better BF-109s, so they might not do so well.
No, they'll do perfectly fine.
But again, there is also the fact that, like I say, they can be used on the front line as much as it needs to be, and then, of course, they can be phased into other roles.
I mean, it's actually perfect because, it's not like the Soviets weren't using the Allison engine stuff.
Yeah.
There's plenty of Allison engine aircrafts that they're using in the front line anyway. So It's not a logistical supply issue. It's more down to whether if the pilots is kind of like the airframe or not. It's just like most of the Western Air Forces would mostly agree Spitfires are perfectly capable and adequate aircraft throughout the war. But the Soviets were like, nah, we don't like this.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But overall, the Eastern Front is definitely more suited for the American Allison engine aircrafts with their... just due to the sheer fact that they don't have to fly too high, which is mostly the biggest downfall of the Allison engines, right? But at down low, they produce just about as much horsepower as most engines of the time.
Yeah, Knight. The word you're looking for is not inferior; it's different.
It's not inferior to the Merlin. The supercharger is the problem with the Allison engines, but that's not even Allison's fault. That's another company's fault.
Yeah.
The engines itself is actually relatively comparable to a Merlin. Without superchargers, the Allison engine will output more than a Merlin out of the sheer fact that it's a slightly bigger engine than a Merlin. But the biggest factor is the force induction system that the Allison just couldn't. Was never. I should say never. It wasn't fitted with one that has reasonable high altitude performance until much later into the war, and by that stage, the Packard Merlin is already in full production, and it's just like, why are we wasting money on two different engines now?
Right.
Okay, so by the looks of it, the only time the Allison engine actually outperforms a Meteor is on takeoff thrust.
Meteor, but
Merlin. Sorry, not Meteor. Like
doesn't
overall,
doesn't mean it's an inferior engine.
Right. Going off the general specifications, on average, I would say the Allison is inferior to the Merlin.
I don't think that's the right word.
Yes, it is.
I disagree. I don't think that's the
It's-
right word.
It has inferior performance and inferior size characteristics. That is what the word inferior is used for. It is situationally more useful, like at takeoff, where it gets more output from that.
And it's more useful
but-
at low level.
No, at standard operating altitude.
No, Allison power will drop off faster than a Merlin.
Even at low altitude, the Merlin is actually outperforming it.
I still don't think inferior is the right word. I think different.
It's
So-
literally-
Like I said, this is all down to the force induction system.
Yes, but that's why I'm going off as power units, comparing them, like basically what one got and what one other got. On average, yes, the Allison is, by the definition of the word, inferior.
I'm going to disagree.
As
I'm
a-
going to disagree.
No, as a package unit fleet, as the entire package,
Mhm.
it is.
I am going to
Like-
disagree and move on.
The
Fleet-
engine itself is.
I am going to disagree politely and move
Fleet
on.
is disagreeing with the actual definition of a term.
I'm not disagreeing
He
with the
is-
term. I'm just
You are.
anyway. Moving on. 9631 asks, why was the Richelieu battleship Marine Nationale Jean Bart being considered for conversion to take Polaris ballistic missiles? Okay, so there was a brief flirtation with a lot of navies that were looking to get into nuclear deterrence, the Italians, the French, and a few others. That the safest this was before the rise of the SSBN as we know it. There was a consideration that the safest place for ballistic missiles at sea was aboard the heaviest and most well-protected combatant you could build, or had. That's why the Italians considered one of their cruisers for them, and why the French considered Jean Bart. Of course, this whole idea falls away in shockingly quick fashion when the Americans go, we're just going to put them on a nuclear submarine and hide it underwater. And, we can launch them from underwater as well. So the first warning the Russians are going to have is, woohoo, hi guys, it's a missile popping out of the water, hope you're having fun.
Well, as I recall, that capability came a bit later, but still, they could put them on submarines.
No, Polaris was always designed as an SLBM. The fact that it could also be launched dry was a benefit as well as the missile, but the program was always intended to deliver a submerged, launch-capable ballistic missile.
Yeah, to be fair, it just makes the most sense. Your biggest, most heavy armored ship. Yeah,
But of course,
it makes for a
of course-
strategic platform to launch.
but of course, bear in mind, nobody knew. A lot of people knew the US was developing Polaris, but nobody knew what the actual plans for it long term were. It's why the first generation of boomers from the French and the British are significant. I think it's like half a decade behind the Americans' stuff like George Washington. The British
I
have
will
got.
also imagine at the time the budget is getting in the way as well.
Typical Gunnery Officer. In terms of the shortcomings of the Constellation class, why didn't the US adopt the Megami class, Mako 200, or South Korean FFG as a replacement
boy.
design and insert the US Tekka design into it? Because that's exactly what just fucking happened. That was fucking Constellation. That just fucking happened, and it didn't well, it did work until it didn't. And also, that wouldn't solve the problem of needing ships right fucking now. Because you'd be pushing back again. And the US wanted ships right
So-
fucking now, and it went from being we want capable ships right fucking now to we want ships right fucking now. Hence why they grabbed a Coast Guard cutter, slapped some grey paint on it, and said ships right fucking now.
Honestly, the other big problem is that the Mongami and the South Korean FFG program just does not have the range that the US Navy is looking for.
Mhm.
The US Navy's biggest issue is that their frigates needs to be a transoceanic vessel that needs to cooperate and keep up with task forces. And yeah, the Mongamis and the South Korean ones are nice and all, but just you're gonna have to redesign and add in a hell lot more fuel tanks into them. on the other hand, the Mako Way 200 is I should say this. That's just basically that's gonna turn into Constellation 2 in essence. So, that program is never gonna get anywhere quite. So yeah,
Okay.
Coast Guard cut best choice, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit pissed off with the Bat Flight 1s, but at least they're only building 4 of them.
It's just something to build while the design team figure out what they actually need on that damn thing.
They needed bloody Constellation. That's what they bloody needed.
Yeah, but too bad the shipyard that's building them can't build them fast enough.
Oh, there's also other problems as well, but never mind. So, next question. Bone Mill Boy asks, what does Fleet do if he's inserted? Apparently, your words, not mine. Okay, even though you're the one asking the question, Bone Mill Boy. Into Frankfurt Friedrich Ebert in October 1918. How do you set up Weimar Germany differently? I fundamentally cannot. If you want me to set up Weimar Germany, I fundamentally cannot divert from the path that Friedrich Ebert took. If I don't work with the nationalists, if I don't work with the far-right groups, Germany collapses into a total civil war. Unless I brutally suppress the November uprisings, Germany collapses into an actual full-on civil war. Rather than just the revolution that bubbles on from 1980 to 1919 and never quite comes in to a civil war. They just manage to keep everything together. This is the problem. And the thing is, and once I've made that deal, I can't exactly then, because they're now holding up the state. Yeah, you have to do what he did. His actions were brutal, but they did stabilize the German state. I can't really do anything else. That's the problem. I can't. It's not possible. This is the problem with Weimar Germany. Or just, well, the German Republic. Either way, there's not really anything I can do. I can't set up, and also, quite frankly, he dies in 1925. So there's naff all I can do in those years. I'd need to live until at least the late 20s to set Germany up so that it resists the financial crash. Because it takes until 1925 to unfuck all. It cause the entire national state of the German Republic to collapse in on itself, which is what actually happened. Which is probably impossible to do, but it's the only thing I can even attempt to have a crack at.
Anyway, next.
Yes, next question is going to be, I think, a Discord. Yes, it is. Nyom. Brandon Larson on Discord asks, what would you say is the best ship-based SAM in the modern day? Oh, but it's not even a contest. It's Aegis plus plus the Standard Missile series. And it has been since its creation. It is the world leader by a country mile and a half. No other system anyone else fields comes close. At all, in any way, shape, or form. And that's not overstatement, that's just fucking fact.
Just be reminded, we have absolutely no clue how the Chinese system works. We don't know whether if it will perform as stated, or it just collapses under its own weight.
Whereas Aegis is fucking proven. We know that damn thing works.
Because we keep using it. We keep firing missiles. And it seems to work every single time it fired.
We keep blowing things up. Explosions!
we occasionally blow up the wrong things as well.
That was unfortunate, but it was an early Ticonderoga with the early form of Aegis, so it's not too surprising. It's unfortunate, but also to be fair,
I was mostly more talking about the recent stuff in the Red Seas. Well, recent, quote unquote, but you know.
Well, yeah, that's unfortunate, but
yes.
Bowmill Boy asked, what if the planned Royal Navy attack on Wilhelmshaven takes place as the Imperial German Navy is mutinying in October, November 1918? How does this change things politically in Germany? Politically, it does sweet naff all. Politically, it does nothing. Germany's already losing the war. The British blowing up the fleet with torpedo bombers isn't going to fundamentally change pretty much anything politically in Germany. Militarily, however, it is going to change things, because the officers who are going to come up may not be inclined to build a German navy as we understand it. Not so much during the Weimar. In the Weimar years, the conclusions they draw is very similar. But when it comes to actually rebuilding the German navy to be a warfighting force, given the shock of the attack, you might actually see them actually a stronger push towards German carriers. And carriers as carriers, not this is a commerce raider. You probably won't see the botching of Graf Zeppelin's design as happened. She becomes built as a carrier without the bloody daft casemates and probably none of the bloody catapults either. Since the emphasis will be on consistent sortie rate, not surge sortie rate. Although it will probably be designed to get carriers out quickly, so you'll probably have some smaller vessels built. But politically in Germany, while blowing up the German navy is useful to the British in terms of not only just as a warfighting measure, but also denying it to other people at the peace conference, in terms of policy, I mean, whether the German navy is lost or is no longer considered loyal, either way, the Kaiser abdicates regardless. Whether that is, well, and if it's both, then he abdicates anyway. Politically, it doesn't change anything really. You've still got the mess that is Weimar Germany. You've still got the person who we talked about, Friedrich Ebert, still coming in to head up the provisional government. And at that point, and if you've still got the November Revolution, at that point, then we're still going the same way we were already going. The only thing that really changes is not political, it's militarily. Unless anyone has anything else they want to add. But then again, that's me just speculating, that's me speculating on how if I was an officer of the period, I would react to that attack in the future. I have no way of knowing if the officers and men who would head up the Reichsmarine and then the Kriegsmarine would either react historically, double down on battleships, or as I have speculated, perhaps be more aviation focused. I have no way of knowing. That is just a guess. Anyone else? Eh?
Can't really think of anything. Just mostly politically speaking, what changes.
More interesting thing is what happens if it changes to the British. Because all of a sudden, that worked.
Again, that's not really political, it's more military.
Oh, it is.
Not...
It is very political when you consider, okay, so how do the politicians react to this? Because then it's a case of, okay, well, we've been building the big battle fleet. Treasury doesn't like big battle fleet. Well, why don't you focus more on these then? It shifts around what the government is willing to allow procurement-wise.
That's...
Because at the end of the day, it wasn't the battle fleet that won the big conflict. It was the planes. And then you've got the effect of, well, what does this do with the RAF?
I don't.
I'm sorry, if a bunch of biplanes were able to sink basically the entire German fleet when the Royal Navy doesn't,
Well,
The Grand
Politics
Fleet still
change-
call it the Royal Navy.
well, they were operated by the Royal Navy, and it was a Royal
Yes,
Navy plan, and
but-
it was.
then they'll just because it's them does not mean the government will see it that way, because then they'll go,
No.
well, why do you need the battle fleet then if you can just do this?
Yeah,
I mean, to be
because
fair-
well, yeah, because
And also the Air Force is becoming its own thing at this point.
it is,
And then we see that if the Air Force very quickly get taken away from the Navy, so we'll start seeing that, well, clearly the Navy, you'll either see enforcement of it should stick with the Navy or it should be separated. Political debates become much higher. There's a lot of knock-on consequences for the British politicians here in terms of how things are done.
I definitely agree with you when it comes to how the air forces are arranged. The Royal Navy might have gained enough clout to keep the Royal Navy air service separate from what is becoming the nascent RAF, but I do want to push back on the battle fleet. That's not going to happen. For one thing, this was an attack against vessels in harbour, not ships maneuvering at sea. The need for the battle fleet was demonstrated the need for capital ships was demonstrated quite clearly by the various running actions that took place in 1914, 15, 16, 17, and 18.
Jutland would like a word.
Jutland was a one-off.
Jutland, no, but
No.
it wasn't political.
Okay. No. The entire point is that yes, you're unlikely to see a complete overhaul of the British political system of being like no more capital ship sort of deal. But every single time you ask for more capital ship, you're gonna have to explain to the House why
Mm-hmm.
you want to build more capital ship instead of the House being like, okay.
Now, this doesn't mean they'll go, oh, well, we don't need the battle line. But as Mo said, it's going to be much more of a case of,
You
well,
will
do
have
we
to
need
explain.
peace? Well, do you need
You will have to
four
constantly make. You basically have to constantly make the argument you are making fleet every single time to them to make sure they understand we still need capital ships. That's why we're asking
again,
for more.
These are
They'll
not.
go-
You're treating.
They'll go, do
you're-
we need 4 ships?
No,
Or
you're
do we need
no,
5
I'm-
4 ships? No.
You're
Well,
treating.
could you work with 2 or 3?
You're treating.
You're giving the Treasury an excuse to
you're
say
treat-
no.
You're treating 1900s British politicians like 2020 British politicians. They
No.
are well aware of what the Navy needs and doesn't need.
If that was the
No.
case, then the Navy would have got what it wanted, which it
Exactly.
didn't.
We want 8 and we won't wait.
The
You
government, the government wanted 4.
Imagine thinking politicians understand the things that they actually need to understand.
They were forced into that. They did not want to, because Navy wants 6. Government and Treasury want 4. End up settling on 8 because of sheer public outcry.
But again,
That wasn't the government. That wasn't the government going.
I think
Oh well,
you are.
we think the Navy's important, so we'll give you the 6. That's. Oh, people are getting angry and we're losing voters.
I mean, I do kind of see where you're coming
Politicians
from,
have
but
never changed.
I don't. Again, politically, you might have some things, but I don't think it's going to change any procurement decisions. Genuinely, given that if they,
I
if-
could.
given if they're
Well,
saying,
no, we're not saying. We're not saying there's going to be major procurement changes.
you're
We're
still
merely
gonna-
stating that you're going to have to argue.
You're going to have to argue, and I do think you might see some procurement changes. I think you might, especially if it succeeds, you might see carriers earlier in the Royal Navy.
you can't get much earlier than we did.
Yes, you can.
Furious, Courageous, Glorious,
Well, no.
Argus.
I think he
Right.
meant as in more carriers.
Yes, and also, like Hermes, have more straight up custom built ones instead of we've converted these ships, because you've only got Hermes as the only built for purpose
It's
carrier
routine,
until
yeah.
until you get Ark Royal.
Well, yes, but then again, you've still got the treaty, so you probably will still see Courageous, Furious, and Glorious.
You might
Well,
it'll-
yes.
I think but things will all depend. Also, if the Royal Navy does start building carriers sooner, they're not necessarily going to give them up as quickly in the treaties.
It is very possible they
Uh,
actually build
say they
another one. A
say they lay
scratch build
down-
one before the
Say they
treaty
lay
kicks
down
in.
another, either one or two more Hermes before the treaties start. Potential or different designs, because as I said, or then basically do something along the lines of the Admiral carrier concept of, but well, what if we instead of base it off an Admiral,
You'd-
build it from the ground up?
You'd basically, the only way you're getting new carriers is you'd basically have to immediately lay down additional Hermes class ships in the aftermath of the raid, basically. Since Hermes doesn't commission until 1924 and she's laid down in 1918, January 1918. The only way you're getting additional Hermes class is if you commit to building them, or additional carriers generally, aside from the conversions we've already discussed, is if you commit to going, well, that went well, let's build more Hermes.
There's a
possible.
reason why fleet that takes so long. She was paused for 2 years. With this, you probably don't see a pause.
Well,
Like
the
she's
problem-
launched September 1919. Work does not start back on her till mid 21.
Well,
So that's part of the reason why she takes so long to build. She's literally stopped. As I said, it's just things that might end up happening because you have changed
There
the
you go,
political
we're
consensus. Yeah,
Rambling.
Then again-
you've changed.
then again,
you've changed the political lookout for how does this all work.
then again, it is always reassuring that we're not all of one mind. It would be very boring if we were, eh?
Debatable. I could use a few pawns running around.
Yeah, never me.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's
Of
that.
course you would.
Okay, that's that. That's that, and then I want this one. Meow. Zoom.
In a minute.
There we go. Okay.
Or
Okay, so I have no idea. Okay, I already know what one of those are. Gallery Officer asks, what is your opinion on the VT4 and Type 99 tank? Do you think the Type 99 is the best MBT in the Far East, and the VT4 is the best export MBT from the Far East? Well, the VT4 is the best export MBT from the Far East, because it's the only bloody export MBT... Oh, no, sorry. There's also... Well, there is K2, but the problem with K2 is that the Koreans are very picky about who they work with. Like they're willing to sell, but you know you've got to really work with the South Koreans. Whereas the VT4, that's been sold to fucking not everybody, but it's been sold to a few people.
yes,
You-
and some
you-
of them are being very angry
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah, you don't have to jump through so many hoops.
Best export tank in the Far East, questionable.
Yeah,
We'll see.
because I like
Because the only other export tank hasn't been thrown into actual combat yet.
which is.
K2.
Yeah, but okay, K2 is probably better. But we
I
don't,
mean,
we
yeah.
don't know. But in terms of is Type 99 the best MBT in the Far East? No. The Japanese and South Korean tanks exist. Is Type 99 a solid, dependable workhorse for an army the size of China's? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'd argue it's the tank they want. It's dependable, reliable, and capable enough. I'd argue it's the tank you need for an army that size, that fields that many of them. It's like it's like a Chinese M4 Sherman. It's good enough.
It's something they can build fast, and build a lot of.
And also, more importantly, maintain in the field with a bloody screwdriver.
That one's a little bit more questionable, but we'll see.
Okay, the modern tank repair equivalent of a screwdriver. Yeah, it is the best tank for the PLA then. Yeah, it is. As it stands currently, yeah.
Well, I'm throwing mixed strong for tanks.
Bowmill Boy asks, what if the town class have been built with county-style twin 8-inch guns, including the elevation? How does this change their service during the war, assuming they work? Britain has a lot more heavy cruisers. Britain has a hell of a lot more heavy cruisers. Holy shit, Britain, why do you have so many fucking heavy cruisers? Holy shit. Stop.
Because heavy cruisers are fun, fleet.
On the other hand, Britain is like, we don't have any light cruisers.
If we're just talking purely about the towns, the British are going to have some heavy cruisers. They'll have the they'll have the full ones. They'll have the Fijis, but they won't arrive until later. They'll have the Fijis, but they won't have the towns.
Thank you, Churchill.
Yes, they'll have the Fijis and the Ceylons, as well as the
Basically, the Didos and the Leanders are gonna have to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Although to be fair,
they're good cruisers. But...
I mean, to be frank, anything you could use a 6-inch town for, you can use an 8-inch town for. Quite frankly.
I mean, yeah, you can.
If all we're switching is the 6-inch guns for 8-inch guns and 12 6s for 8 8s, yeah, there's anything a 6-inch town can do, an 8-inch town can also do.
And then suddenly, this should be the moment when Foxhole hops on and suddenly tells you how the 8-inch guns are absolutely horrendous ideas, and it should be someone should be shot for even suggesting this.
The British did have exactly the right idea, switching to rapid fire modern 6-inch in significant numbers for their large cruisers. They were absolutely right in that decision. But
yes,
but having the 8-inch gun is not. It's not going to degrade the fighting power of the ships in the roles they are designed to do. It fundamentally doesn't change their war service. Where the towns go, the towns will go, and they will still blow things up.
Just fewer shell but bigger boom. And that's kind of the only difference.
Yeah, basically.
It depends.
Too intimidated by
The 8-inch towns might replace some of the counties,
and
counties end up having to do some of the towns, OG towns role.
I do kind of wonder is if not having fielded quite as many of the rapid fire 6-inch might be a bit more of a detriment further down the line when they start work on like the Tigers.
Well, no, there will still be. If I look, there will still be 11. Yeah, there'll still be 11 Fijis. You'll still have the 3 Minotaurs they complete. Like, yeah, there will still be plenty of modern large 6-inch cruisers with that triple turret. Like,
they just come in
later,
much later into the war.
Although you are probably going to see a lot more of the Minotaurs actually completed, simply down to the fact that the Royal Navy will need to bulk up its 6-inch cruiser numbers.
Yeah,
Well, although saying that, like I said, it's important to bear in mind that these ships are only called light cruisers because of the treaties, because they have 6-inch guns.
Yeah.
If we want to be brutally honest, in the Royal Navy, if it's a World War II era town, a Fiji, a Minotaur, a county, anything around that size, it's a large fleet cruiser. Whether it carries 6-inch guns or 8-inch guns is irrelevant. They all fulfill the same role. The Royal Navy just made a conscious decision to switch to the 6-inch gun for its large fleet cruisers, and save the 8-inch gun for a class of ship that never got to actually build. That's right, Dragon, isn't it? Because they wanted a class of much larger 8-inch cruisers, didn't they? Like, significantly bigger than treaty-era cruisers.
I think it was like 15 or 18,000 ton.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Quadruples.
Yes.
So
Foxo is intimidated by someone just entered their 30th millennium.
Oh God, you poor soul.
Okay.
Congratulations.
What?
Oh, so apparently the Crown colonies aren't converted. Okay, so that leaves.
Well, yeah, of course. crown
Yeah.
colonies are not towns.
Yeah,
You
they're
know that.
they're the Fijis.
They
We're
have
expecting
5
10.
guys.
We're basically expecting 10 new 8-inch cruisers.
Yeah,
They have 5 guys, a fresh haircut, and a quarter tank of gas.
But just our
Are we-
point still
are we
stands.
going
That
to
just
the moon?
basically means
No.
pre-war. A lot of the
Darn.
6-inch cruisers isn't going to exist, and the Royal Navy is going to have to utilize a lot of more on the Didos and the Leanders for the
no,
We're
for
going
the
to
lightweight
annoy a
secondary works.
Francophile.
Basically,
That's where we're
to
going.
be fair.
no, Moe, they'll still be doing the lightweight secondary work they're always doing because the towns were not intended for that work. Like I said, whether it's a county or a town or a Fiji or whatever, if it's this larger tranche of cruiser, they're intended for this large cruiser tranche of work, whether they have 6 or 8-inch guns. All we've done really is swap the guns. We haven't we haven't meaningfully shifted the vessel's role.
Mm.
Please insert credit card to pay for scan validation.
Ruinon is doing the financials.
Indeed,
Typical
you
gunnery
should give
officer.
us your numbers in the
Yes,
back of your card.
Indeed. Typical gunnery officer asks, what's your opinion on APCR shot on tanks? Do you believe the War Thunder myth that APCR doesn't have any good armor penetration against tanks even in real life? How good was the APCR performance in Korea? I can't speak for the APCR performance in Korea. I don't know enough about the performance of various tank rounds in Korea. You're probably better off putting that question to the chieftain. In regards to believing anything that War Thunder tells you, well, no, obviously not. War Thunder is terrible at simulating basically everything to do with guns and armor.
Yeah.
Look, it's very simple. In real life, when you poke a hole in the tank, whoever's inside do not wish to be inside anymore, even if they wasn't hit.
Yeah, but also, more importantly, in regards to APCR in the Second World War, which I do know a little bit about, APCR generally performed consistently and was issued to, I believe, a lot of Allied tanks, whether they were British or American, after Normandy.
Slightly incorrect there. APCR is HVAP, technically. And no, it wasn't distributed to British forces much.
Okay, that's fine.
The British, on the other hand, got Sabo,
Okay, so
issued in limited numbers to primarily Fireflies, Avengers, and not Charioteers. It's the Challengers.
so the British 75 never got a HVAP round.
Don't think they did. No.
Okay, fair enough. But from what I've heard and read from American tankers, they were reliable rounds when they were called upon. They were in limited supply, but when they were used, they apparently did what was advertised.
And to be fair, when you get into
The
Korea,
label-
generally speaking, most things you're shooting at doesn't require APCR.
Yeah, you are at
You
worst.
don't need APCR to go for a T-34 with 76.
You are at worst in a Chaffee, and if you were in a Chaffee and a T-34 shows up, something's gone horribly fucking wrong.
What do you mean?
Well,
That is
if you're
exactly
in a
what happened.
Chaffee and a T-34 has shown up, and you're in a position where you
you're in the
have to
Busan
fight the
pocket.
T-34.
Don't forget,
That's-
opening phase of Korea,
I
there
know.
is no armored unit in Korea, and they had to scramble the Chafees from Japan into Korea, making many cases of Chaffee versus T-34s.
Yeah, but like I said, if you see them, it goes wrong because you end up in the Busan pocket at that point. And oh boy.
To be fair, a Chaffee could hurt a T-34 at
could.
range.
It could, but the T-34
It's
can
just
also
usually
hurt it.
Chaffee gets hurt a lot more
Yes.
if it is receiving hits from a T-34.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
Uh,
fundamentally, only time you'll probably need to use APCRs if you see that one rare unicorn of an IS-2 rolling over the hill.
I like potatoes.
Me too.
How are you
You do
doing,
really-
Rick?
Potatoes are great.
Not too bad. My right knee is continuously sending me strongly worded letters of complaint. I got a haircut for the first time in 3 years. Got 5 guys in the passenger seat.
There you are. Jolly good.
I gave blood to the blood mage.
Skull to the
I
skull
haven't
throw.
cut my hair in 7 years, actually.
Yes, well, I have a small problem of having to wear a hard hat and crawl in tight spaces in a nuke plant.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
So while I would like to have hair all the way down to my ass, that's not practical. It's also a pain in the ass to manage. Pun not intended. I also might be getting lost in Richmond, but that's okay. I'll survive. I think. Maybe. Possibly. Crap, I needed to get in that. Dang it. Oh well, time to engage Northern Virginia mode. So I'm going to
That's right.
possibly annoy one of the panelists here,
Mm.
but Dragon, which one of our companions in the other server does a lot of runoff management work?
Oh. Know what you mean? Don't remember
You-
the name off the top of my head.
Testing and evaluation.
Of which thing?
It also doesn't happen. Say again.
Specify what category we're talking here.
Construction, civil engineering,
Titanicus.
making sure that that's Titanicus.
Titanicus did for a while, though they are now, unfortunately, a teacher. Also for engineering.
Isn't
but-
Titanicus not American?
Oh,
Because
yes,
this guy's
he does
American.
it- right, yeah. Titanicus does it for British, though.
I'm deliberately trying to not dox this person because I could narrow it down really quickly for you, but I will dox them.
Well, just continue anyway.
Yeah, I'd like them to come up to the site that I'm working at because they're building a data center right next to the nuke plant. And they're still putting in a whole dozen of gas turbines because the extra nuke capacity won't be available in time for their shenaniganery. But yeah, fuck data centers.
You must do your civic duty, Ruinon. Destroy the data center.
No, thank you. I like my DOE plant
Evening
access.
Fox,
Anyway.
I would just like him to make a trip there because they are tracking so much mud out of that site that we might as well be driving on a dirt road on the way out.
Hmm.
I see no issue with that.
So,
Because he's doing
Boy,
exactly the speed.
Bowmill Boy asked, what if Gustav Stresemann survives in good health and mind for another decade? So having looked into the gentleman, he was basically the architect of the revival of the German state as foreign secretary from 1922 to 29. Basically got them into all of the treaty organizations again, got the Locarno Pact signed and ratified, got agreements signed with the Soviet Union, Russia, basically single-handedly managed to reintegrate the German economy into the US one and reduce loan payments that the Germans were making. But he was at heart a German and a pragmatist. So if he survives, given that he did serve as emergency chancellor and was somewhat popular with the German people, if he had lived into the 30s, there was a possibility that he may be used as a counterbalance to the rising far right. Whether or not that will succeed, I'm not entirely sure.
It won't succeed.
Probably not, but yeah, like I say, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's impossible to know. It's impossible to know what ripple someone would leave. This is the problem with dealing with individual people who might survive. You've no way of knowing what they would do. No way of knowing.
Well, there's also the problem is that the reason why Hitler and the Nazi Party were able to achieve the power they did as quickly as they did was that significant power blocks in the German state thought that they could use and manage the Nazis to achieve their own political goals. And in the end, they wound up creating a monster that destroyed them.
Yeah.
Answers on a
And-
postcard to what that sounds like.
And even then, in the Bundeswehr, by the time Hitler gets the power, even before he merges the two head offices, the far right has the majority of votes with his party alone. I think it's like 36%,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as the Nazis got the ability to appoint local administrators and court officials, that would then look the other way when the SA did SA things
Mm-hmm.
and then burned down the Reichstag. One guy's not going to stop that.
And after Hitler gets into power, he's 100% kings. Oft.
Yeah, the Enabling Act was a hell of a
And some-
drug.
And someone like Hitler was inevitable for how
Yeah.
German identity was built. Thank you,
Yes.
Bismarck.
Yes, we said this last week as well.
No.
Typical gunnery
Bismarck
officer.
doesn't get enough shit for what
Yeah.
he did.
Typical gunnery officer asks, what is your opinion on the Clems and Witz classes service during World War II? Do you think they're more useful as attack transports or fast transports instead of their role as fleet destroyers, since they're already outdated? It's hard to overlook a cheap, semi-reliable platform from one which can yeet torpedoes that don't fail. Especially in the early part of the Pacific War. And it's also hard to overstate a cheap, reliable, easy-to-use platform which one can strap hydrophones and depth charges to, and then throw into the North Atlantic. And it's hard to
Okay.
overstate, that there are so many of the fucking things. You've got enough spare parts to fight God. Now, yes, the US was replacing them, and that was the right thing to do, and the US had been replacing them for the last 20 bloody years. But the fact remains, they were there, they worked, they weren't perfect, but they were still holes in the water you could use to screen larger assets and lob torpedoes at things. Or they were holes you could sell to your allies at dirt cheap prices that they could then strap hydrophones and depth charges to, and use to blow up German submarines.
And it's not even that. It's you can make a very good argument, right, that the Clemsons and Wicks were obsolete in the Pacific theater in World War II. In the Atlantic, they weren't.
I think both of you are missing the point. It's not that the Clemsons were utilized because they were spare holes. It's that they were utilized because there are no other choices.
I didn't say they were spare. I didn't say they were spare.
The US was in a massive deficit of destroyers at the start of the war.
Yes, they were. I didn't say
And
that.
the Clemsons had to step in, even as fleet destroyers, into the role until production of destroyers have caught
Swarm.
up, which
The
is at the
Swarm.
time the Benson, the Gleaves, and then obviously the Fletchers kicks in. But
Don't forget the Gearings.
that is very, very far. And
Yeah, the
the
Gearings aren't
Clemsons
really...
are well out of fleet destroyer roles by the time the Gearing kicks in. But
Yeah.
yeah
Being phased up ASW roles by that point.
Yeah.
exactly.
Because it's important to remember that the Bushdeckers in British service from destroyers for bases, and the Bushdeckers in American service in the Atlantic had a better attack and defense prosecution rate against German submarines than the more modern destroyers had.
Why is that?
They were much tighter turning from what I've read.
They're smaller, nippier.
Smaller,
Yeah,
and
they're not-
accelerated better.
Yeah. Just Clemson is a 1,000-tonner, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit over 1,000-tonner by now. It's like 1,200 or something like that. But a Fletcher is
And if you do
2,000.
if you do what the British did and you remove the torpedo tubes and replace them with depth charges, you've significantly made that ship a much better riding, more stable platform with the torpedoes off it.
Or you
Significantly.
did what the British did when Hedgehog came in, and that's take the guns off and put Hedgehog up front.
The Clemsons are great boats.
They really
Yeah.
were. They
They
really
did a good
were.
job. The design team did a very good job with the four stackers, the American
Oh, yeah.
four stackers.
I mean, it's the reason why they lasted so long. They were just fucking good.
because it's actually quite interesting.
It lasted so
because-
long because there's no money to replace them.
But there were frontline AFW service in the Atlantic until 44, reliably.
Mhm.
Which is a lot of war service, especially for some of the ones that were given for destroyers for bases that were in horrific condition. Because, in fact, the tribals versus the 4-inch gun destroyers, I can't remember the class of
VMWs.
VMWs, also had the same issue. The tribals were actually really bad at ASW work.
Then again, that's because the tribals were never
Oh, gee,
meant
I
for
wonder
it. If
why.
let's
Yeah.
take this destroyer that is designed to completely ruin the day of any destroyer it comes across, and is
And quite a few
explicitly
light
not,
cruisers.
and explicitly designed not to focus on ASW and escort, is not great as an escort. I
Yeah, but-
wonder why.
Because a couple of them did
I blame
receive...
Churchill.
No, a couple of them did receive quite extensive AA and ASW armaments. They were just bad hulls for it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
wait, by
because-
extensive ASW, you mean basically mortars and depth charges, and
Yeah.
maybe a hedge. I wouldn't really call that
And a
that
full
extensive.
sonar suite.
Sonar was basically just standard, though.
Yeah, but they had...
Also, that's not meant for attacking. That's more a case of alerting.
But it's used for tracking as well.
I do think saying tribals
Well-
are bad at it is a case of, well, yeah, that's not their intended role.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
what
kind
they
of
get
a
the
do
point
it.
I'm
Working
trying
as
to
intended.
make is the Fletchers had troubles with ASW for the same reason. They were bigger, more capable destroyers, yes.
They're big,
But those
they're long.
traits that made them very good gunboats and very good anti-air destroyers made them relatively poor ASW combatants.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty much it. That is the long and the short of it.
It's the reason you don't hunt submarines with a town-class cruiser.
Yeah.
Indeed.
What about
you're
the middle of the
Manchester.
fleet?
Unless you're
That's why
Manchester.
the Evars, the
Unless you're
Buckleys, the cannons.
She's fuck. I'm sorry. That's brilliant. We do not hunt destroyers and cruisers except Manchester. That bitch crazy.
Oh, hey, I'm
Who
passing
decided-
Manchester.
Who decided repeatedly destroyers have picked up a submarine. Right, put 6-inch AP in the guns and fire at its last known position.
Destroy the
But
child.
sir, it's dived.
Destroy the child.
I am well aware that it has dived.
Now
Do it
follow my
anyway.
fucking orders, you.
I still
Anyway.
wish someone went on the whole World War One anti-submarine howitzer development route.
Anyway, okay. So, Bowmill Boy from Bowmill Boy from YouTube asks, "What if Hindenburg survives in good health and mind for another decade? He gets killed by the Nazis! Yay!"
You could
Wasn't
name anyone
Hindenburg the-
prominent.
Wasn't Hindenburg the one who put Hitler in the Chancellor's office?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he gets co-opted or murked.
Yes.
Oh no, it's not even that.
He
It's,
retires and lives quiet, solitary life.
it is believed, given point of his symptoms, that he was suffering from stage 3 cancer. And was largely infirm by the time he dies.
Yeah.
So if he dies, he's infirm.
Yeah, he died of lung cancer, like stage 3 and 4 lung cancer.
If he doesn't,
Yeah.
if he doesn't have lung cancer for some reason, then he gets
then
killed by
he's
the
infirm.
Nazis.
He doesn't get killed by the Nazis. He just gets pushed off stage left.
Yes. Exit stage left. Do not pass go. Hindenburg in
Because
1939.
he'd be in his 90s, infirm, and blind.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is very funny. Hindenburg in 1939. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my actions. That's World War
Oh.
II.
Thinking about it, didn't Hitler
look, an oil
literally
barrel.
pass the law about how he's gonna merge the chancellor and
While
the
he's on his
president into the
deathbed,
same
yeah.
row?
Yes.
Like literally the day before he died.
No, so technically speaking, that might not be able to get through when he's not, if he's not on his deathbed. Also, the best hope is that
Well, Hitler's
the Hitler,
not
he will
gonna
try and get him
push it.
killed. But the thing is, though, if he can't, well, things are just gonna happen other ways.
Yep.
It's not only that, it's Hindenburg was a massive proponent and was the one who was the major support behind the bill to merge the positions, because he was an ardent monarchist, but he was an absolutist monarchist.
He basically wanted to
And
put...
while he didn't want the Kaiser back, he wanted an absolutist de facto Kaiser.
That one.
And he was an ardent anti-Semite.
Yes, like a lot of Germany was in this
He hated
period.
the Poles and
Like-
the Russians
like
and the
a-
French.
Yeah, like a lot of Germany.
To be
during
fair,
this
that last
period.
one I can understand.
No. Yeah, but well, he's
Next.
lucky he died when he did. Otherwise, he would have been known as a verdant Nazi.
Like, a lot of people hate the French. This is just the French's
Mm,
natural state of existence.
I would argue that given the particular consequences of what we're discussing, I don't think that's perhaps the right turn of phrase.
If you want me to do it politically,
A lot of
in the 1930s, everyone hated the French.
okay, a lot of I would reframe this as a lot of people hated the French. How many people hated them enough to eradicate them?
More than you would like to admit.
Probably, but I'm just that there does need to be
for
a
the
distinction
Bel-
between the meme of
Belgians, the French.
hang
were
on,
looking
drag
at
it.
That's not.
There needs to be a line drawn between the meme of "Hurdy dirty dur, I hate the French, cheese eating surrender monkeys," and no, I actually want to functionally genocide the French.
To be fair, from what I'm reading, that was
Quite a
not what he was up
few,
to.
like
And also,
on
yeah.
a serious level, quite a few. Because in this period, you've got the various Belgian laws which are trying to eradicate the French language in Belgium, amongst the in the Flanders region. You have the various uprisings in North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, where they're shooting the French for being French on sight. You have
with
the
Indochina.
German. You have the Germans hating the French to the point of they're going in the war. They go in and force people to change their names and ban the French language in Alsace-Lorraine and begin Germanification. In northern France, you've also got the British government having a set of laws on the books that are enforced that unless you've got a royal title, get rid of a specific like D's and Dukes prefixes. So forcing the French to change their names. The Americans have the same there. The French are trying to eradicate their minorities through cultural genocide.
Like, unironically, 1930s France, well, 1920s and 1930s France is not a good time.
Oh, and you've also got the Italians trying to do the same thing in northern Italy, in Savoy.
Yeah,
So Piedmont.
it's not fun. It's not fun.
So as much as it's a meme, it's also a fact of, yeah, cultural genocide was a thing up until this period in Europe, even outside the Nazis.
Yeah. So, Brandon Larson asks, congratulations, Admiral. You are in command of a Galactic Republic fleet tasked with securing half of the Outer Rim. Your fleet is made up of 5 Mandator 2 class Star Dreadnoughts, 10 Praetor class,
Wait, no, it's
battle
Lunar
cruisers,
Flags.
50
Sorry.
Imperator class Star Destroyers, 300 Victory class Star Destroyers, 900 Venator class Star Destroyers, and 10,000 escort, resupply, and support ships. What is your strategy for this operation and how you deploy your forces? That's not something an Admiral commands. That's not something that a Fleet Admiral commands. That's not something a Sector person commands. That's the bloody Clone Wars. That's the entire fucking Outer Rim front of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
God's
Define secure.
How are you gonna do it?
Also, on top of that, that's more Mandator 2s than were ever built.
Yeah,
but,
that was going to be my next thing. I I mean, I guess he
Hmm,
just.
Also, actually, you're probably not as happy as you think, because technically speaking, an admiral could command that.
Oh. That's a lot for an admiral to command.
Well, it's an admiral.
Well, wouldn't that be a.
You just have more other vice admirals that command
You forget
more.
how they kind of
You
do
can
just-
divide a lot of admirals.
Yeah.
What a 4-star in charge of it.
Oh, well, okay, I suppose, like, if I was
Well,
a
by this
Grand
stage, you'll be a
Admiral,
5-star.
if I was a Grand Admiral, then yeah, probably. That's a
You're
Grand
being very
Admiral level
pedantic
task
about
force.
this, but sure.
But look, I like my. Anyway, they're more just talking things for the heck of it. Honestly, we just form up in a massive. We just basically go from system to system, grinding forwards until the Confederacy dies. I mean, I have the force
No.
to just kill them. I could just go.
No.
Nope, because they're just going to rebel afterwards.
Yeah.
No, you need to disperse the armada.
Yeah.
You cannot solidify this.
Well, yeah. After we've killed them, we just leave the clones on the planet so that they, like leave the galactic
No,
army.
because
No,
your
that's
your
not how that
clones don't
works.
have that. You don't have that many clones.
We have the rest of the galactic army. That's not the clones.
So why would you leave the clones behind?
Okay, well, they will leave the galactic army behind because any spacefaring assets will be gone, since we will have wiped
Also,
them out.
no, because you haven't. Like,
The
you're
hit on
now
galactic
well
trade
done.
is
This
smooth.
is now guerrilla warfare.
I don't know enough about the fucking Clone Wars to deal with this, and I don't know enough about what I'm fighting.
Okay.
Like
right.
securing
And hand
half
the
the outer
question off
rim.
to the people on the panel that do.
Jesus Christ, calm down, Ruinon, for God's sake. I'm just going
They
through
are
it.
calm.
I'm not that calmed up. I'm eating a burger, driving on I-64. Life is good, man.
So, right. So to give Fleet some context, you have to strike quickly because you've got the issue that behind you, worlds are joining the CIS, and you have to try and put it down quickly and decisively because you don't want more worlds to join the revolt. And a slow grinding campaign will just have them revolting behind you when you're playing whack-a-mole.
I love playing
Now
whack-a-mole.
you might have a large fleet group. Like, say, have a couple of mandators, like a couple of praetors, a bunch of the Star Destroyers, and you just go in and that's a hostile shipyard. I want it removed.
This really isn't my
That is-
forte. Like, Star Wars is not really my cup of tea when it comes to this sort of thing. I'm well
Let
outside.
Dragon answer Star Wars question.
I'm going to. I was literally
And to
about
be
to say. I was literally about to turn it over to the man. If
To
you'd
be
have let
fair,
me.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. You know enough normally.
Yes, but I like to have the context of what I'm up against. Like,
Well,
what's-
this is obvious.
it's not to me.
It is. Right, so the fact that you've got Imperator class Star Destroyers means that this is either literal last year of the Clone Wars or post Clone Wars. So probably pretty. And since it's still considered the Galactic Republic, basic inference goes this is the last year of the Clone Wars, because after that it is reorganized into the Galactic Empire.
Yes, the funny ha.
So- By
Cool.
reading the question, we've already secured when this is.
Well, that's all right to you, but I don't pick up on those sorts of things.
Yes, you do, because I know for a fact you know the Imperator is a late Clone Wars thing.
Not if I'm not considering that sort of thing. At least give my orders a chance to exist.
No, because I know your autism, and I know it's enough that that your brain knows Imperator is late Clone Wars, and it's still Galactic
That doesn't.
Republic.
I don't always make that connection, though, Dragon. Please don't tell
Okay,
me what my
then.
autism is and isn't.
Okay, then Victory class.
Again, still doesn't automatically make the connection.
Then read the quest.
That doesn't automatically mean I'm going to make the
That
connection.
isn't even the issue. The entire issue is the fact that his original tactic is already
A
not a
terrible
good
idea.
tactic to begin with, even out of context.
I'm just happy to be here.
Basically, yeah. Apparently,
I'm
choking.
with
to death
Rudolph
while
on this
driving.
one.
Yeah, as Vox has said, disperse. You'll have a main hitting force which you'll use in any place where you need to smash through it. We're talking major separatist holdouts. So
Bring
and
the
then if
5
they're large scale
mandators
ship-
plus it. Yeah, bring the 5 mandators.
no, you don't bring all 5
Why not? Just destroy everything in my path.
because you're using the mandators as your command ships.
Do I need to?
Yes.
Why would
You're
Why
conquering
not?
the Outer Rim. Do you need command ships? Yes.
You've
Well,
got
why-
hundreds, if not thousands, of light years of space patrol. A region that's heavily armed with hostile forces. That, yes, they've had the chain of control shattered, chain of command shattered, but they're going to ground. And separatist elements will exist in this period to fight the New Republic.
Hmm? The new
Not Republic. It should have been Republic. You mean the Separatists, technically, but
Yeah,
Overlord,
the
yeah.
separatist holdouts in this area, like go to ground, go into deep space, end up fighting the New Republic when they come,
Do you mean the Empire?
when the Empire falls.
Wait,
But
what?
forms.
What?
right no, wrong period, Fox. This is when it start. This is just before the Empire
Yeah, no.
created.
What I'm laying down is the fact that you've got CIS cells
Mm-hmm.
and armies that are going to ground
Yes.
and have shifted to a form of guerrilla warfare.
Yes, that's I've got all that bit.
Canonically, the period of pacification takes place over the entire lifespan of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, and you've got to pacify these regions and dig out those cells relatively quickly,
For the
so
record,
you can't concentrate.
I've just placed an image in Ramblings of what the Outer Rim is classed as. Just for
Yep.
context.
I would
for
also-
context sake.
This is more just a yeah,
Genre?
this is more just a general fleet organization for this type of thing. You'll want to keep the, what were they, mandators?
Yes.
You'll want to
Yeah.
keep them dispersed because what do they have? A class 4? Class 3?
No, I think Mandators actually were
ISD
decent. The Mandators were
But-
surprisingly good from what I remember. Then,
If you,
there is no official designation, but go on, sorry.
if you have them all in one place and something like a CIS capital unit or, God forbid, a squadron of capital units pops out of the woodwork, you don't want to have. They'll always show up where your heavy units aren't, because even in the last year of the even in the last year of the Clone Wars, you still have information sharing between both sides by way of Palpatine. And so if you have them dispersed, you can build a unit, you can build a task force around a mandator with locally available assets, instead of having to pull all 5 of your mandators from one end of the rim to the other playing whack.
Because you don't want your light forces getting jumped by a donut.
Also,
Yeah.
You're net wide.
subjugators still exist at this point.
Then we hunt them down. That's the first priority. Deal with
Yeah,
those.
but what happens if they use their ion weapon against your big, quite valuable ship, being the Mandator 2?
Then, given the
The
size,
Mandator 2 just went down.
given the size of the Mandator 2, that would have to be the only thing the ion cannon deals with. It's given the way we know the ion cannon works, which therefore
It was
means-
No, it was able to hit 3 Venators in a dispersed formation.
No, that's very the ion cannon, whether the ion cannon ring expands or does not expand, and what effect that has on its ability to actually deal damage, was never consistent. And without it being consistent, I won't accept that as a capability it possesses.
I would, considering it's consistent by the sheer fact that we basically see it
Yeah, but
twice,
then-
and it's
no.
consistent in both.
Yeah,
You see it initially against Plo Koon's task force of 3 Venators. You then see it when he fire when they are trying to take out the Twilight. And then I think there maybe is 1 or 2 times you see it in a very brief moment.
But that's still it's also we don't know what effect that would have on a super capital, given the super
Bad
capital
things either way. You're either one way or another. Your shields are down.
That's still
Yeah, either your options are it does nothing, it mission kills a portion of the ship, or it mission kills the entire ship.
Now, if the
Either
enemy
way-
come in with heavy bombers,
Well, the heavy bombers would be a problem regardless of whether the shields were down or not, since proton torpedoes penetrate shields.
no, they don't.
Yes, they do.
That's an Empire at War thing.
No, that's a Star Wars thing.
Nope.
No, because we've seen
Luke wouldn't-
because we've seen proton torpedoes just damage the shield.
Well,
You ever want to talk about inconsistency? Proton torpedoes are inconsistent.
well, yeah, but they do penetrate shields. Otherwise, Luke would have been able to get through the shielding over the exhaust port.
The exhaust port technically wasn't shielded.
And of course, we've got Rogue One as a really good example when those bombers come in and drop torpedoes against those Star Destroyers and just go right through the shielding. And of course,
As I recall that ship's shields are down, but
Yep.
it's admittedly I've only seen bits of Rogue One. I need to get around to it at one point. Also, yeah, as they pointed out, those were ion torpedoes.
and then of course you've got the whole
Yeah, which are Which
Explicitly designed
ion-
to do this.
ion weapons as a class are your shield breakers.
Either way,
They're designed to take shields out and ideally disable the vessel carrying them.
either way,
Shields, not
you
the
don't
weapons.
gather all 5 mandators in one place.
Well, yeah,
You disperse them.
yeah. Well, okay, fair
Uh,
enough.
You disperse them. You maybe get 2 of them together if you're doing a major attack. Though really, that's what you can use the Praetors for. 50 Imperators. Those are basically your capital ship killers. They will take on a danger donut.
I would not feel confident sending an Imperator alone against the Lucrehulk.
Why are you sending it alone?
Well,
Donuts.
yeah, but you were
They
talking
are
about,
your-
you were talking about
No,
individual ships.
No,
here.
what I said was they are what you send to take out a danger donut.
Yes, but
That's not
that
saying you
didn't-
to send. That's not a singular one. Also, that's not imply. They also you will have backup with these.
Well, that's fine. You needed to make that clear then, because that wasn't the intention I got from it.
When have we right? I will point out. So far, when have we said we're sending one ship here?
Well, you haven't, but you also haven't said you're sending more than one. You're talking about the class as a
I said they are
As-
your. I said they are your danger donut killers.
yes, but that didn't imply
That
whether
does
it
not
was one of them or if it was more than one of them, if it was working with a task force.
Girls,
So I-
girls, you're both pretty.
Look, look,
Either
look,
way,
I don't
then
know.
you've also got your victories and a lot of anything, let alone the escorts, which means it's gonna be. Well, yeah, basically, we have the ships to fort. Yeah, Dreadnought versions of Providence and Recusant are not going to have a good time against Imperators.
No, but Bulwark
Bulwark
Mark.
Mark IIs are in rare enough supply, and also Bulwark Mark IIs are very weird. They kind of do and do not at the same time, and I don't like the Bulwarks, to be brutally
And
honest.
it's also which Bulwark Mark II, because there are several.
Well, no, there's only one official Bulwark Mark II.
Which is that? Because I forget which one it is.
It's literally just described as a battle cruiser that succeeds the Mark One.
Yeah,
like,
but
there
what does it look like?
It's
Is it one of those? Is it one of
technically
those?
right. If you want me to go with what it looks like, fine. It is technically this. But that also refers to the Bulwark Mark One.
But that doesn't. Oh, that looks like the Mark. Oh, it's the. Oh well. Oh yeah. Whereas the Mark II looks. Well, it depends on. Yeah. Yeah.
Technically, that the Mark One, Mark Two, and Mark Three are. And
They basically just run it through the printer at different size brackets.
It's why a lot of fan stuff actually tries to, make them a bit more unique from one another. But yeah.
Slight non sequitur.
Yeah,
But is Empire at War actually under any level of development or interest, or is it just mods?
No,
Mods.
no,
Mods.
they continually
Right.
keep
It
fixing
is
the damn thing.
primarily mods, but one random guy occasionally seems to keep doing stuff for it every now and then. And I mean every now and then, as in last time it was updated was 22nd of November 2024. Before that was November 2023. Before that was November 22. And before that was Jan 14th, 21. So roughly once a year, apart from last year, it gets some sort of thing. Usually of, hey, This makes sure the game doesn't break, so you don't complain at us as much.
Basically.
How the hell they managed to convert it from 32 to 64-bit, I do not know.
Yeah, that's one thing that all of us are sat here scratching our heads going, how the fuck did you boys pull that one off?
Carefully.
And with great care,
Well, considering
yes.
it should have basically no devs on it, yeah.
Yeah, so, very quickly, yeah, I think Dragon's got the basic gist of it. Spread your forces out, have some roving task groups, a few command ships spread out to make sure you have local control, slap the Republican army on places. If you need to blow places up on land, send in the acclimators with the cloney boys, grab some Jedi if they're not already dead, yeet them at planets that need de-separatisting. Ideally, you're not gonna get them all because the Separatists are sneaky buggers, so you're just not gonna get them all. They will go to ground, and there's fuck all I can do about it, quite frankly. And yeah, that's basically it. That's the long and the short of it, and the long and the long of it, and the short and the wide of it, and the tall and the waist of it. I'll see myself out. Bone Mill Boy asks, what if Yugoslavia develops nuclear weapons in 1960? How does this change the politics of Europe and the world? Does Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan keep their nukes, and who else? Oh, dear God, no. Oh, for the love of fucking Christ, no.
I'm sorry, I had to avoid getting his photo ticket here. What was the question? In slower English, please?
What if Yugoslavia develops nuclear weapons in 1960? How does this change the politics of Europe and the world? Does Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan keep their nukes, and who else gets them? Well, Belarus and Kazakhstan fundamentally can't keep their atomic weapons. There's no way they can.
Ukraine can.
Ukraine can, but the question is, will they? It's going to depend entirely on how the break of Yugoslavia goes. If the UN powers that go in, which does include Russia, go in and make a point of categorically removing nuclear weapons from Yugoslavia, then that early period where it seems like the UN's actually doing things like that, Ukraine will probably still be willing to sign the Budapest Memorandum and give up their nuclear weapons and various other strategic assets like their Tu-160 fleet and their Tu-95 fleet.
Are we sure
is
it's
it
a good idea to give Tito nukes?
Well, Tito's
Yeah,
not
okay, good. It is Tito.
Tito's not the problem. Tito, ironically enough, will just use them and say, "Nobody fuck with me," even though nobody was going to anyway. But he will just more aggressively say, "Nobody fuck with me."
He makes him very hungry.
Fleet. I do feel obligated to remind the court that Tito is famously quoted or misquoted as saying to Stalin, "Stop sending your assassins after me, otherwise I will send one and they will not miss."
Yes, that was part of the whole "don't fuck with me" bit.
But
there's a reason why he founded the whole non-aligned.
The other half of your statement there, Fleet, was that nobody was fucking with him.
Yes. Well, no, as in
they were very clearly fucking with Tito.
In terms of by the 1960s, nobody was fucking with him.
Yeah, they were.
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
No.
But the Soviets had a pair of guards armies in Hungary on his border.
Well, yeah.
They kept threatening to invade him.
Well, yeah.
I would call that fucking with people.
Well, yeah, but no, that's just what the Soviets did all the time with Yugoslavia. They kept threatening to invade it, but that's not an active invasion of Yugoslavia. That would be fucking with them.
It was used to politically coerce them until Tito told them to fuck off.
Well, yeah.
And was willing to start shooting war over them.
Yes, which again, you would probably have the same thing here, but also you wouldn't. Like, again, nothing really changes during the Titoist era.
Does.
No, it doesn't.
You give Tito a lot more power.
Right. This period, Yugoslavia, especially Serbia, has a lot of territorial borders. It does not agree with their position with both Hungary and Romania.
No, they don't.
And Austria, yeah.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe.
No,
Yeah.
no, the,
Somebody
Yugos-
provide.
the Yugoslavian government has no territorial ambitions outside of Yugoslavia. That's the borders it gets back post World War II are the borders it had pre World War II. It has no.
Yes.
It has no.
And the border claims and the border issues go back to the founding of Yugoslavia. They're older than Yugoslavia. The same with the Bulgarians and the Greeks and the Albanians.
That doesn't mean he's gonna shift the borders by force, even if he has atomic weapons.
But it'll make him able a lot more bigger power when it comes to coercing people.
Not really.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do?
I have nukes.
I have news.
Yeah, I have the ability to sustain, maintain, and deploy atomic weapons.
Yeah, or even if it's the case of Stalin or later Khrushchev, we're sorting shit out in the Balkans. You get involved and you invade us, we start throwing our nukes around. Okay?
That's
Okay. Bulgaria, we've got a border we need to renegotiate.
that's not. No, that's not. That's not gonna. That's no. The Russians were perfectly willing to start a war with China that involved nuclear use. They're not
Yeah?
going to be. They're not going to be by both sides. They're not going to be deterred by a small amount of Yugoslavian nukes. They're just not gonna be. They will call his bluff
They
on
said
that.
they.
Right. Do you know why the Soviets were willing to go to a nuclear war with China over a border conflict?
Yes, because they saw China as a significant threat and were
No.
confident they could
No.
win.
No.
Well, that was one of the reasons.
No, because China still does claim 1 to 2 bastions, depending on which map you use for their claims, which are a significant part of Soviet nuclear deterrence. And 2, their claims in northern Manchuria include part of the Soviet silo fields
Hmm.
and their nuclear deterrence.
Yeah.
So if China was going to try and take their silo fields, they were going to empty those silo fields at China first. A war over a proxy state on the periphery is a very different calculus.
I still say that the Russians would call his bluff.
Mate,
Given the small amount of nuclear arms and probably the limited use range, the Russians aren't really going to care if Tito nukes one of their puppet states, because they fundamentally don't care about their puppet states beyond what their puppet states can do for them.
Moscow may do something like, what was it, the 48th, 49th parallel type thing that China did during Korea, where they say, look, if you want what you claim of your territory, all right, fine. If you're willing to nuke us over it, all right, but you don't take any more than what you claim prior to this.
Yeah.
But you have to take it.
yeah, and it's very much a case of the Soviets, until they go to war with the West, don't want to see nuclear weapons used. And Tito was very willing to target Soviet armies in the Balkans with conventional forces. And given his fuck it, we ball approach to international diplomacy,
Tito was a lot more brinksmanship and a far more realpolitik than that. He wasn't
yeah,
fucking
but several times he did go fuck it, we ball.
Yes, when the situation called for it, as per realpolitik thinking. We will get to post-Tito CQ. We can't get to post-Tito without knowing what post-Tito looks like.
Yeah, I would also say too that if you have
But yeah, I think
you have nuclear Tito, then whoever replaces Tito may not be the same as historical, because that's going to be a very different set of chess pieces on the board for Yugoslavia and that's going to have NATO influence, UN influence, and Warsaw Pact influence, trying to gain control or at least reduce the risk of that arsenal doing something, shall we say, icy.
You might even see Yugoslavia being propped up. You might even see the NATO and Warsaw Pact powers interested in Yugoslavia not breaking up. Even if that means they have to pour money into the state post-communism.
No, it's also because a lot of the hamstrings with Yugoslavia with NATO was the fact the Italians still claimed the Croatian coast and Slovenia up until the 1990s.
Yeah, also, I think Chandler is quite good. Yeah, the Albanians are fucked.
The Albanians are fucked. The Bulgarians are fucked.
Bulgaria's
Because
Bulgaria's not fucked. Bulgaria's just going to lose a bit of border territory, but Albania's fucked because Albania
quite
has
a bit of border territory.
not that much because the Yugoslavians already own most of Macedonia already.
But Yugoslavian claims aren't just Macedonia. It's everything west of Sofia. And the Greeks are fucked too. Because the Yugoslavs also claimed Greek Macedonia.
No, the Greeks are not fucked because that means picking a fight with NATO. They're not going to touch the... Can Tito probably play hardball with the Warsaw Pact, given that most of the states are puppets and the Soviets can be made to acquiesce into as long as their puppet states survive? Yeah, possibly. Maybe. I can just about see it. Can NATO be pushed? No, absolutely fucking not. And also, quite frankly, the Greeks, given the Greek army, the Greeks would fucking roll the Yugoslavians any day of the fucking week. Any day of the fucking week.
Not if the Turks are involved.
The Turks are
Because remember, the Turks and the Greeks, despite being NATO, nearly go to war with each other repeatedly throughout the Cold War.
They do, but it's
And
one
it comes very close repeatedly to being a hot war. And
Well-
twice the Turks back down.
Yes, that is very...
If it's if Turkey starts and comes in with the support
That's not gonna happen.
in the form of a different alliance with Yugoslavia,
That
doesn't trigger Article 5 because that's a war between two NATO powers.
That's not going to happen. That's just not on the table. Fundamentally, it's not. That's not how Turkey is willing to jostle with Greece over the Aegean Islands. They're willing to jostle with Greece over Cyprus. Both sides are willing and agreeable to that sort of jostling and hot and cold escalation and de-escalation. Because for both sides, that does not put... It's conflicting claims, yes, but both sides know it does not put their metropoles at risk. Neither side is willing, able, or wants to put the other side's metropole at risk, since both of them are needed to deter Russia coming south. So if Yugoslavia is meaningfully putting the Greek metropole at risk, Turkey won't be, oh, you know, let's sort out our claims to Greece. Turkey will be, we'll sort that out amongst ourselves later. Hey, Yugoslavia, that's a fucking NATO ally. Come get some, motherfucker.
Turkey won't be.
They will be.
No, because the two passports that almost go to war are over West Thrace and East Thrace. Which is the plains that lead to Istanbul. That the Greeks, even until the Cold War, even today, still claim.
Yes, that's true, but it's not Istanbul
And the
itself,
Turks want
is it?
West Thrace
I know.
up to Macedonia to get the Greeks as far away from fucking Istanbul as possible.
I am aware of that. However, they are not going to join the Yugoslavians in the... Because, okay, if Turkey joins a separate alliance of Yugoslavia for the specific purpose of enabling those two states to attack Greece, Greece will still invoke Article 5. Because it's still an attack by a non-NATO member on a member. The fact that Turkey is also involved is irrelevant. Secondly, if Turkey does this to start a hot war with Greece, Turkey will likely be seeing its NATO membership being torn up in remarkably short order. Because it is one thing to skirmish with an ally. It is another thing to collaborate with another nuclear state for the explicit purpose of moving borders by force.
Right, Blake, quickly before we go. Have you heard of a country called Hungary?
As far as I'm aware, there is no mechanism for removing a NATO member from the treaty.
Yeah.
That's why we have to deal with Hungary and, ironically, Turkey, being such, frankly, shitheads.
Yep.
We cannot remove them from NATO.
There is a way to do it. You just have to do parallel alliance structure without them. You basically you say NATO is dead, long live NATO, but without Yugoslavia, without Turkey and Hungary. That's the way you do it.
Awesome. Do you know how long it's going to take to negotiate a whole new NATO treaty?
No, you don't have to. You have lots of very clever lawyers here in the West. You just have to write up NATO again, but without Hungary and Turkey, and have everyone know exactly what you're doing and exactly why you're doing it. As long as everyone's on board with it, you can do it. It's relatively quick and easy.
Foxo, do you want to destroy this man's idealism, or should I?
It's not idealism, it's fucking fact. We've got political scientists
remember that the NATO Charter was set up when the British and the French Empire still existed. And there is an organizational hierarchy within NATO itself, with being the Americans, British and French, then everyone else with tiers by seniority, with each with different amounts of political power with what offices they can hold in NATO. Secondly, you've got to get people to agree to those terms again. And there's not the outside compressive threat of the Soviet Union to make people agree to those terms.
The Soviet Union hasn't gone away.
And the fact that NATO itself, and the fact that, I'm just talking in general, and the fact that NATO has always been on very shaky ground as an alliance because it's an unproven alliance. And the moment you go behind someone's back to create a new alliance without them, you've just undermined NATO.
Although in that case, then you invoke Article 5 and crush Turkey into the...
You can't.
You can.
Article 5 specifically states, if you're at war with another member state, you can't invoke it.
Yeah, but you can invoke it against Yugoslavia.
Spain and Portugal went to war, and Portuguese had the Moroccans on their side. Spain can't.
Spain and Portugal did not go to war. What are you talking about?
No, it's an example.
Oh.
As an example, if Portugal and Morocco got into a war with Spain, as long as Morocco wasn't the first one to go to war with Spain, and they're joining the Portuguese because of the Portuguese-Moroccan alliance, you can't invoke Article 5.
That's not how it works.
It is.
That's not how it works.
It is.
No, it's not. Article 5
is.
No, it's not.
Because Article 5 has sub-clauses that state when and where it can't be used. Because technically, according to the way it's written, if Turkey is attacked on its border with Georgia, Article 5 can't be triggered.
Why not?
The definition of Europe.
Yep.
And the subclauses of Article 5 specifically state that it can't be triggered for wars outside of Europe. This was specifically done so the colonial powers could not force NATO members to participate in wars overseas and against colonial subjects.
Aha!
Oh.
Well, in that case, then I know you're talking rubbish, because what about the invocation after bloody 9/11? Afghanistan's not in Europe, is it? Aha! Gotcha!
Because it was an international effort for an international organization that had fingers into Europe. And it was an attack on a member state.
Yeah, but that state was
It
the
was
By
a
an
US.
direct
international...
on the
That's
Americans.
not a gotcha fleet.
And if you remember at the time, there was a lot of controversy about them enacting it. And it's why a significant portion of NATO member states didn't join the invasion of Afghanistan. Or Iraq too.
Iraq 2 Electric Boogaloo had better justification for not joining,
Yeah.
but...
Yeah.
Also, too, I'm going to point out that one of the fundamental things which helped NATO to come into existence is the fact that when it is being negotiated and signed, Europe is still doing its best impression of a moonscape from World War II. So really, all your big militaries are the US, the UK, France-ish, and the Soviet Union, and China. So all the littler member states don't have the amount of firepower that they'll have in the 60s after they've had 15 odd years of rebuilding and heavy Western and heavy American and less extent Anglo-Frank investment in their defensive infrastructure. If they're stronger, they're going to demand more protective terms of themselves. Whereas if they're weak, they'll take any port in a storm.
Imagine Tito rocking up to the UN asking for a permanent seat in the Security Council.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
that too.
They're not going to get it. In the same
They
way
will.
No,
They will.
won't. No, they won't.
They will.
No, they won't.
They will.
Of course they bloody won't. What are you talking about? That's the daftest thing I've ever fucking heard. If India didn't get a bloody seat on the UN Security Council and Pakistan didn't, why the fuck would Yugoslavia?
India, Pakistan,
India and Pakistan are brown.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
Yugoslavia.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yugoslavia is made up of Slavs. What makes you think that's any different in the eyes of the UN Security Council?
Oh,
No, because at this point we're in the 60s. The defining feature of the UN Security Council is that they're all nuclear powers. India actually gets
China.
China's a nuclear power by 64.
No, it's not.
Yep. Here it is.
No, it's not. It's not.
Hey, Fleet, why don't you look it up
The Republic of China.
and
was
then
not-
show us the source that says you're right.
The Republic of China was not a nuclear power. It's fucking history. It's right there in black and white.
That's true.
Well, for one, I'm
Republic of
driving, so
China.
I can't look it up. And for two, I'm not an
Well,
expert
no.
on Chinese history.
That doesn't count. Republic of China is a founding member.
Yes, but it was still a member.
They
of the
were
Security-
originally included in the 45. The nuclear power isn't the point.
Yes, but they were still on
But
the
by the
Security Council till 71, if not later.
They were on it until it got switched over to People's Republic, but either way.
The point is that nuclear powers get at least offered a seat on the Security Council. Because India when did India get them? I think it was India in the 80s was offered, but it came with terms and conditions they didn't like, so they didn't take it. Namely, a part of them was them removing their claims on Pakistan. But yeah. Also, doing a quick fun
Also,
fact.
Yuki, since when has the Fleet's Random Ramblings ever not been biased? What? Like, hello? I am about as biased as it's possible to be. Like, my podcast is not unbiased. That's.
I'll come back to Skyrim to see what she actually posted.
I have never hidden my biases.
As-
That's.
Yeah, we realized that.
As an
Anyway,
example,
we've been
I'm
on this
biased towards
question for a
Wagos.
really long time now.
Beat the horse. Beat,
Beat
the, horse.
One thing we ruined our agreement. Beat the horse. Horse.
Yeah, okay. I'd love to point out that there is still officers that other nations can be appointed to in the NATO alliance that Germany is still permanently barred from in the charter.
Damn. Poor fucking Germans. Jesus. Poor sods.
Because West Germany was barred from quite a few higher up NATO offices. NATO offices, and because East Germany ceased to exist in the eyes of, and the West German government took over NATO, took over the East. As the NATO alliance defines it, West Germany became Germany, so they're still stuck to their clauses in the treaty. So, good luck getting that passed after German unification.
Oh, good lord. Yeah, that's never. Like, one thing I will agree on, she's absolutely right on that. Like, that ain't never fucking happening. That ain't never
Sorry,
happening.
try and get that past 1970s Germany when they're rebuilding, and the Bundeswehr's the largest army in Europe.
Yeah, yeah.
And the French ain't gonna fucking accept that.
No, then absolutely not. The French are sat there with their arms folded going, no!
Oh, and if you abolish NATO in the 60s and try and reform it to kick anyone out, there's a good chance France doesn't rejoin. Yeah. Anyway, next question.
Well, that's a good point, actually, Foxo. Actually, no, never mind.
Yeah.
We'll leave it.
Go on, no, say it.
But Milbo's brought up a really good point. If India couldn't join up because of disputes over borders with Pakistan, why would they let Yugoslavia join? Considering they spent 10 minutes detailing their border claims. That is actually a really good point. I think we should discuss, given they do have a lot.
Because the realities of real politics and geopolitics changed a lot between the 50s and the 60s and the 80s.
Because the Indians don't detonate their bomb until
70s.
Yeah, and the Pakistanis is not much later than that.
And in this question, you're giving Yugoslavs the nukes at the same time France is getting theirs.
Oh boy, what a shocking revelation.
Oh boy, this is amazing.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Anyway, Brandon Larson asks, in a hypothetical scenario where the US and its European allies don't downsize their militaries following the fall of the Soviet Union, oh dear God, the European economic crisis is going to be so much worse. And China does its military build up earlier and at a faster rate. Will we see ships getting kept in service longer, namely the nuclear cruisers? The US nuclear cruisers were on their way out in the 90s for one simple reason. When it came to the cost of refueling them, and given that most of them were bespoke class, it was like a grouping of bespoke classes of 1 or 2 ships, maybe 3, depending on if you're talking about the Virginias. And the cost of refueling this fleet of almost odd jobs, it just, even in the situation where we're talking about, it's still not worth it. In fact, if the European allies are not downsizing their militaries, there's even more reason to retire them. Because the European navies are more capable. And don't
On the
need...
other hand, what gets kept?
And even if China is doing its military build-up earlier, which the problem with China wasn't military build-up, it was modernization. China, by the 90s, has a significant military, land, sea, and air. The problem is it's large and modern, but the modern part ain't large, and the large part ain't modern. Yeah.
Large navy is a.
Yeah, they're up there. They're scraping rank 6 and 7 at this point.
6, 7.
Stop it! I've avoided that meme like the plague.
Ban people, you know.
I've avoided that meme like the fucking plague. I'm not having it. Not having
also,
it.
I would like to point out that the nuclear metal cruisers in America were supposed to be replaced by more nuclear metal cruisers in the 90s.
In the 80s and the 70s. And anyway,
yeah, right. The US was retiring them because A, they needed retirement. B, the US Navy thought they were getting new ones.
But also, they were kind of not that bothered when they didn't, given the way the post-war situation developed. The problem is that the US does still have things it needs to prioritize post-fall of the Soviet Union. And this is the thing. Even if the US isn't downsizing its military, if the Soviet Union falls, they still need to rejig that funding round. Because what you need to do world policing is not what you need to face off against the Soviet Navy at sea. It's just not. They need... If anything, I still think you do see strike cruiser getting cut. Because that means...
However...
Because... Can I finish? Because that means...
Yeah, I'm going to go through a car wash, so I may come back to this.
Yeah. Like, for example, F-35, B-2, heck, you might even see Seawolf, if I'm going to be honest. If you don't need to penetrate the bastions, yeah, you don't need Seawolf. You might get a redesigned conventional strike cruiser, but I don't think you'll get a nuclear-powered strike cruiser.
You'll get a nuclear-powered strike cruiser.
I don't think so.
Because that's what they've got the designs for, and that's what they wanted.
The biggest benefit out of this entire thing is that the OHPs don't fucking go away.
Yeah.
That solves 90% of the US Navy's problem to begin with.
The problem with the OHPs and any arm launching ship in USN service was that the USN, with the arrival of VLS, was looking to fleet SM2. And you can't launch SM2 off of any of the rails that the USN operated.
Yes.
That's why
there are actual... You will actually have more fundings to consider refitting OHPs.
The problem with refitting the OHPs to VLS is that you lose one of their great strengths, which is their deep magazine for both SM1 and Harpoon.
That's fine, though.
Yeah.
The fall of the Soviet Union. You're not actively looking to fight a pure opponent. You're now just world policing.
Yeah, and it's the great irony of it. Oh, God, sorry.
And yeah, it's just like a refit OHP with VLS is definitely more than capable enough of world cruising in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, and the irony is, the nuclear cruisers that were planned would have been, in hindsight, cheaper to operate in the new world police role and cheaper cruising. Because as much as we like them, the Arleigh Burkes were really not designed to be cruisers and the world police role.
I feel like this is one of those shows where I have to do the old fleet reminder. Reminder, Fleet's Random Ramblings is a show hosted and run by humans. These humans have biases and opinions. These humans only know what they know. If you think anything that has been said on Fleet's Random Ramblings is not correct, please go and do your own research. We are not infallible.
Yep. Oh, just so you know,
I am now...
Strike Cruiser.
Go ahead, Foxo, and then I'm going to join up.
Strike Cruiser 1990 should have been built and would have been better for the post-war world than the Arleigh Burkes in the world police role.
Well, hopefully we get Burkes as well, because Burkes works.
Yeah.
You're 100%
The
doing
Berks
works.
shouldn't be doing the cruising duty. The nuclear.
Can I be
cruising
heard?
duty.
Honestly, okay.
Were the
okay.
nuclear cruiser designs
okay.
being considered still?
Chairman,
We're
Chairman,
using-
I can say,
Give it to Ruin.
Chairman, I'd like to reclaim my time.
Yeah, go
Huh?
for it. It's fine. We've had the time system ages ago. But go on.
So let me make sure I understand the question before I open my mouth. This is a scenario where we get to a post-Soviet world, but the NATO allies do not disarm. Is this
Basically,
correct?
There is no peace dividend if I'm reading the
Okay.
question correctly.
Okay. One, if you are going to a world policing role, if that is what NATO, with all this military power that they've built up and are going to largely keep intact, is going to do, there is immense value in having a QRF force, quick reaction, which there is no surface asset that can do that better than a nuclear-powered cruiser. So what you could see happen is the U.S. builds less conventional steam and gas cruisers and builds more nuke cruisers in this post-Soviet environment.
I can see that. Yeah, and also,
Yeah,
you
I
might even-
was going
Additionally,
to
If you
suggest. Go ahead.
silence, I kill you. Additionally, once you start building more of these things, the per unit build cost, let alone the per unit maintenance costs, are going to roll off dramatically. I yield my time to the floor
So what I
until I reclaim.
My-
what I very
My
quickly want to
question-
ninja in.
Let Turret speak. Let Turret speak.
Yay.
My question was going to be: Are these new generation nuclear cruisers coming along using a reactor design modern enough that they won't need refueling?
Yes.
Because that's going to eliminate a bunch of your running costs as well.
40 to 50 years needed to refuel.
Yeah, they're not going to need
For
that-
refueling.
They're not going to need refueling. Yeah, absolutely not.
And
So
by that point,
that's another design consideration and entire chunk of ongoing funding off the table.
Okay, so just to very quickly address the ship that Gunner Officer has posted and is asking about. First of all, that ship fundamentally doesn't work. The blast effects from even just one forward 16-inch turret would render all the missiles and Aegis systems on that ship and the directors and radar for them functionally irreparably damaged after it fires once. That is the vulnerability of systems like Aegis to shock. Never mind the blast effect of that forward 16-inch gun. Secondly, the Iowas are life expired. Their hulls are old, their engines need replacement. The cost to build this ship, as it has been demonstrated to me here, is the cost of building 4 of Foxo's new strike cruisers. If not more than that. Heck, for the cost of what I'm seeing this ship is, you could probably build a new bloody supercarrier.
Yep.
Now, in regards to the Seawolves, which is also mentioned, the Seawolves are just... The Seawolves, even for a post-Cold War US that isn't disarming, are too expensive, and even the USN knows it. There's a reason why they rework the Seawolves into the Virginias. The Virginias are sustainably capable without absolutely breaking the bank. It's hard to overstate just how bloody over-capability the Seawolves actually were.
Yeah, a good way of thinking
I
about it
could
is
see-
that no. Well, let me just give an example. Is F-22 versus F-35. The F-22, still to this day, is the best air-to-air fighter ever built.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good enough to the point where, Jesus fuck, expensive enough to the point where it's impractical and not really needed, and aside from the few units actually built, because the F-35 can do its job cheaper. Which is the
Well-
Virginias to the Seawolves.
What I could see happening is a higher spec version of Virginia, but not a full Seawolf.
Maybe.
but not that.
Nah.
Yeah, that's a long shot, and again, not that much.
If we are talking about
more.
F-22 though, I mean F-22 is going to be fleeted. If the US isn't dropping things down, F-22 is getting fleeted, and so is B2. Those
Yeah, probably
platform-
not.
Yeah,
stop.
because those.
If China is militarizing more
I could
rapidly and is rapidly buying up the Russian Air Force, let's say, that's the reason why they're remilitarizing more rapidly. They've basically bought the flanker and MiG-29 production lines and are just running them flat out to basically flat replace the Chinese Air Force. Then there may be an argument for fleeting F-22 and B-2. Because then you've got that Air Force to deal with in the Indo-Pacific region.
No. Because the issue of F-22 is when the Cold War ends and the Americans find out the actual specs of those aircraft they're expecting to fight, they go, oh. We built to counter the propaganda numbers. The actual numbers are nowhere near. It's sort of a case of we were expecting an aircraft that would outdance the F-18 to the point the F-18 can't compete. These are just aircraft that can compete with the F-18.
Yeah, you'll probably see the B2 buy and the F-22 buy be similar, maybe a few more. But I think you might see a dozen Seawolves built, and then everything else is a Virginia or a Virginia Plus.
I'm not even sure there are any Seawolves.
Well, if we got Seawolves historically,
I'm
get the
hang
ones
up, fleet.
You don't have to scream.
I'm just thinking. Well, I started talking and then you immediately opened your mouth. I think you'll see the Seawolves. They want to build enough so they can always have 3 or 4 on hand at any given time. And I think they'll build just that many and then switch to Virginia or Virginia Plus. That's why I say 12.
I'd say more 8, because even for the Americans, the Seawolves before the fall of the Soviet Union were going, this is too fucking expensive. You want us to pay how much for a submarine?
Yeah, I would agree. I think 12 is too many. 8, I could see. Honestly, the number I was going to put out there was 6.
Yeah.
6 will reliably give you 2.
6, and then yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm just trying to think about what capabilities they might try and, like, if they want to port over an additional capability to the Virginia, what they might try and bring over.
I don't think they would even do that.
Yeah.
I just think building the straight up Virginia is more than good enough. Especially the fact that you now have 6 Seawolves. There's
Well,
absolutely
I'm
no
thinking in
reason
terms
you
of,
need to
you know,
upgrade
what-
of.
In terms of stuff like the ECM suites that the Seawolves have.
Eh,
And maybe bring over a little bit of that equipment over
Eh.
to Virginia. And
maybe,
then-
but I see that more as a one-off, or maybe 2. It's just if the fundamental thing is cut costs, there's no reason to
yeah.
bring anything over to Virginia's. Especially the fact that you are running 6 Seawolves now.
Now,
I'm about
I am
that.
going to say,
Hey, remember that just
You or me,
quickly before you
Foxo?
continue or not.
go ahead, Foxa.
The funding that most of the funding that was used from stopping building the rest of the Seawolves went into the Los Angeles refit and refueling. And for literally a fraction of the price to build the Seawolves, they got a significant life extension on the Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And the Los Angeles arguably a lot more useful.
There's just more of them. That's why
Yeah.
they're useful.
The flight.
And there are already some of the most capable boats in the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah.
And you
okay.
built
Do you
62 of the
think-
fuckers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this idea out here. Do you think we might see a dedicated cost down of the F-22 instead of it getting itself bolted onto the F-35 program? And F-35 remains a true jump jet.
No.
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 F-35 became far more than just that capability, as everyone realized exactly what it was capable of and who and who the orders
When
were coming.
everybody, pretty much when every single branch start getting roped into the F-35, it will never be just a jump jet.
And then the order book expanded to all of fucking Europe.
Yeah, I've got to remember that. There's about 20 years between F-22 and F-35 as a
Yes.
F-35 being as a mature in service aircraft. And we're talking the 90s and the early 2000s. The advancement in technology, especially manufacturing, and the significant use of CAD in the F-35, and just industry development in general, cut down costs significantly.
Think about it. The competition ended for F-35 in 2003, and then 3 years later, the Raptors were pretty much oofed in terms of production.
Yeah, and for example, that's the difference between only part of the design team using computer-aided design for the shapes, and still largely using slide rules, to everything's done on a computer now. And active physics simulations in computers.
Yeah.
And real-time radar simulation.
We really took this question to task, didn't we? Like, good lord.
What I'm wondering though is, could those same advances be brought to a different airframe instead of trying to get F-35 to do everything?
I mean, it can do everything. It does do everything. It can do anything. It's brilliant.
It does everything okay, nothing exceptional. It is exceptional in its ability to do everything okay.
It's
Which
I mean,
version are we talking about? Because the A's and the
Look.
B's are very different aircraft.
Yeah, the F-35 is three airframes masquerading as the same one. Yeah, fair enough. But
Yeah, what I'm thinking is, those different airframes are just different programs.
No.
Because a lot of the cost saving comes from the F-35 shares all of its electronics with all the other models. It shares its avionics with all the other models. Because, fun fact, from what I've heard from a friend of mine who's a mechanic on them. Wait, no. Probably shouldn't actually say that. Never mind. Next question.
Look, it's very simple. The only way you're getting split out of the F-35 program is after it's done, and one of the branch start bitching about how bad the airframe is.
Yeah.
And to be fair, there's only one branch that could really bitch about it. The Navy is really the only one that really don't like their F-35s.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
know what other low observation aircraft of the time period was. Because I know it annoys me when I bring it up. But you've got stuff like Tornado 2000.
Hey. It doesn't annoy me. Like, it doesn't annoy when you bring it up generally. I don't like swinging an aircraft on aircraft carriers, especially not after the year 1980. But that's just a personal bias.
honestly, that's going to be the most interesting foil to the F-35 developing as a 3-in-1 Omnicraft. Is if the other NATO powers, generally speaking, are keeping their funding at comparable levels post-Soviet, there's a non-zero chance you see far more prevalent French and British designs,
Maybe.
and the Swedes,
Maybe.
the hurdy-gurdy designs.
The French would absolutely try their hand on making their own 5th gen.
Right.
Yeah, because
anyway.
if the money is still flowing, and it's there and it's able to be spent, suddenly the argument for buying into an American program becomes a lot weaker versus the build it British or build it French or whatever, nationalistic
Build it
argument you make.
even just
no,
build
Heafish.
it European.
No, Heafish, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's why the F-35 is a brilliant aircraft. You've hit the nail on the head. You've basically got it. That's like, and we're all in agreement. The F-35 is a brilliant aircraft because it can do anything. Literally anything.
What did he? Yes, that's what I said.
Yes, I know. That's
Yeah, but it's
we're
also
all in agreement. We're all agreeing with you, Ruinon. We're all in agreement.
also
Like
another
I
thing
said.
I just got to bring up. If you're keeping it funny at the same point, are you aware of the Eurofighter Typhoon? We got the second cheapest possible option.
Yeah, but that's not really surprising given the things that we did.
That was proposed and tested because we know BAE applied the flight model, gave the flight models to the Americans for the F-35Bs, where they did test. They have the flight models and radar deflection models for a stealth airframed Eurofighter.
So yeah, that basically tells me what I was
With full
thinking.
stealth and low observation.
Yeah, that tells me what I was thinking, which means you'd get Eurofighter as a stealth aircraft, and then the French would do a French and get stealth Rafale.
Well, probably low observation, and then the next one stealth.
Yeah. So I think we, gentlemen, ladies, can I suggest that we have perhaps hammered that question into the ground with a giant tuning fork?
But is it paced yet?
Yes.
Is it a fine, even thermal pace?
We don't need the extra grammaticalness. Thank you, Ruinon. Moving on.
Because technically, we never went into
stop
any
it.
of the land.
Look, I only have so
Hey,
much
we could get a true A10 replacement.
I only have so
Yeah,
much
we
patience.
could.
Yeah, it's called F-35. I only have so much patience for I only have too much patience for modern MacGuffins. I'm sick of it. Moving
Okay.
on.
All right.
Night
Do you know
six-
a really funny thing? I'm going to put it out quickly.
Oh, for God's sake.
Did you know that in 1981, the US Army bought a pair of Panavia GL1 Tornadoes
Oh, no.
and
Oh
tested them
boy.
Please
and
make this
replaced them
quick.
fun.
with the A10?
Please make this quick.
So there was a significant
Done.
chance the US adopted the Tornado.
Anyway, Knight 6831 asks, if the British Empire had not declined, or if the British Empire had transitioned to a Commonwealth, which, as I've said consistently, is the only way the British Empire doesn't decline. So, again, Knight, I would please rephrase your question to if the British Empire had refashioned itself into a Commonwealth, because anything else is horrific to think about as a concept,
Move on.
and I don't want to consider it.
Unfortunately, that's not what it was, but because it is a British Empire, not a Commonwealth.
Well, then in that... Well,
Continue. Get the question out, Fleet.
if the British Empire had reforged itself into a Commonwealth, would Vickers Armstrong have maintained its dominance in the global shipbuilding industry, or would it have struggled alongside the rising powers overseas? Ain't no way Vickers Armstrong, even in a non-declined British Empire, is keeping up with the mass production nonsense that comes out of the built in a series of months factory shipyards that appear in South Korea and China, just because of the way the infrastructure is arranged in the UK. Sure, they
And
can-
labor laws.
yeah, true. They will probably maintain a key part in supplying shipping to the Commonwealth, given there will probably be a push to buy British, especially for things like cruise ships and bespoke cargo vessels. But when it comes to the rising tide of large containerization, bulkers, and oil tankers, you can't compete with the South Koreans, the Japanese, and the Chinese.
Yes,
I
but
think
it
we will
takes
see.
time to
We're going.
Bill-
Going on.
it takes time for those nations to build up that infrastructure, and when I say time, I mean decades and decades of a non-declined British Empire still doing the shipyard shipbuilding programs that they have, or not shipyard building, but shipbuilding programs that they had that are going to be needed to sustain that Commonwealth/Empire.
Commonwealth, it's not slash Empire. The
That's-
Empire doesn't work.
No. Yeah, it
Fleet,
can.
whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does not matter for the purposes of this question. That's a big ripple effect on UK shipbuilding. And it's going to change what we see in the modern era compared to the Asian yards. You'll probably, because of labor costs, yes, you will probably see a lot of the cheapest ships, tramp freighters, get produced in those yards. But that's a big sea change that Knight is proposing here.
I mean, who's to say that the UK businessman is just not going to be like, I don't know, goes like Singapore, establish his own shipyard there and just do the Asian thing in Singapore, which ultimately achieves the same thing as the Asian shipyards in the British Empire.
Vickers Australia as the subsidiary.
Australia.
The customers for these sort of ships are going to want robustness in their supply chain. They're going to want the term is second sourcing. So even if they do move most of their production over to the Southeast Asian yards, they will still want an alternative in case something happens in geopolitics, which means they can't get their ships from those yards anymore. So Vickers Armstrong, my thinking is they will likely survive. Whether or not it's the Southeast Asian yards that are the second source, or whether Vickers Armstrong is the second source, is the open question.
I think Guy made a really good point that I hadn't actually considered, which is if you do have a British Commonwealth which is more focused towards preferential treatment to Britain rather than a Commonwealth of equals as we know it today, where it's an empire-light situation, which is what the British Empire would need to be to survive, then I think Guy makes an excellent point. It is entirely possible to exploit the different wage capabilities of various parts of the Commonwealth to set up new build shipyard factories in the Asian style to churn out British level compliance or, you know, modern bulkers, tankers, whatever, for British shipping companies with all the cost benefits that come with the Asian system. I think Guy's absolutely correct there.
So, right. Another thing I think that is problem is, when is this? Because if Vickers has been able to just keep going and keep potentially expanding, because Vickers would expand, it probably would eat up various other yards. It's only until mid to late 70s do you see these big shipyards you're talking about in Asia actually come about.
I know, I'm aware.
Now, this means Vickers has been going strong for 30 plus years beyond norm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not really...
It is more than likely actually going to be able to deal with this. It might not be able to exceed, but... Dominance, no, but it also means Vickers existing means there probably isn't dominance. You have it a lot more dispersed because you will have the Asian ones, you will have British and you'll have British ones, and you'll have some American ones.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, even during Vickers' height, they weren't the dominant shipbuilding power globally. If you think about how much shipping tonnage was built globally in the age of the steam merchant ship, the US was chipping in, Germans were chipping in, the French were building merchant ships.
No, Vickers kind of were the dominant one because of one major thing. Vickers weren't just producing merchant vessels, they were dominant because they produced merchant and most of the world's warships.
Well,
it's not even that. Aside from a lot of the French yards, a lot of the yards in Germany and a lot of the yards in America were minority stakes, at least owned by Vickers. Same with the ones in Japan. Like, Vickers might not own them outright, but I think it's the yard that built the Congo, Vickers owned 40% of.
I see what you mean. So yeah, they're not going to be the dominance in the way they were pre-war. But also, Dragon, I would like to have an interesting hypothetical here. If we do have this sort of British Commonwealth system, Vickers is going to be making bank for one key reason. I guarantee you that in these newly independent states, they'll be getting first dibs for a lot of the development contracts, and even supplying these new
All I'm
states'
going to say
armies.
is India.
Yeah.
Not even just military-wise, just if Vickers can go, hey, you're basically still part of Britain, India, we will offer you preferential rates if you let us do it.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
depends. Does
you want-
Qatar get semi-nationalized?
Yeah.
Mm,
Which, to be fair, in a non-decline situation, it's plausible.
if Tata Steel is... Oh my god, Tata Steel is a subsidiary of Vickers.
Lee,
You joke.
I
But
know. It's more realistic than we think.
Tata Steel was owned in minority by Vickers.
Oh god, here we go.
Lee,
It's just Vickers. It's Vickers all
It's
the way
all
down.
Vickers.
It's all Vickers.
It's all...
no, okay, fun fact, Vickers owned a minority stake in Krupp.
This is the Vickers Armstrong world. We're just living in it.
Vickers and everywhere.
Oh my god. Thank you, Knight, for asking this question. I needed a good chuckle.
The East India Company never left.
Yeah.
Where's Meta? We need him to make some memes for us.
Oh my god, yes we do.
Right. Okay,
It's a
Okay,
Vickers
okay,
world.
a good way to... Sorry, I didn't point it out. Don't think of Vickers as a company that builds ships in their own yards. Think of Vickers as the shipbuilding equivalent until the 60s, where a lot of these yards get nationalized. Think of them as the naval equivalent of Amazon Web Service.
They do everything. They do everything.
They're everywhere.
No,
Everywhere!
they're everywhere. They own minority stakes everywhere. And you operate through them a lot of the time as a contract middle broker,
And you never
but the
even
name
realize it.
isn't stapled on things.
I mean, just think of the armaments contracts alone in this post-war world from all these new independent Commonwealth states that will probably be going, well, probably who will have to go to Britain for their contracts for their aircraft, small arms, tanks, artillery pieces.
Boobs.
No, not boobs.
No, that's more Asia.
Hey.
Yeah,
but
right, the issue is that Vickers was into an issue in the 1960s that we haven't fixed.
yeah, I know we've got the whole aircraft problem.
No,
No.
it's worse than that. Completely incompetent leadership.
Yeah.
Hand wave.
No, we're not. I mean, on the one
The
hand,
fact that most of the competent people have died in the 50s due to stress. And it's only the dregs and the useless fucks that have survived long enough.
it's worth pointing out though we are kind of handing them a free market. As in, I don't mean a free market in the sense of free market economics. I mean an entire almost captive market of new independent states that basically have to come to them from everything from railway lines, bridges, signal boxes to tanks and warships and everything in between.
Wait,
Yes.
this is a period where the company, when trying to sell the Vickers Mark I to Nigeria and a lot of the former British African colonial states,
Mm-hmm.
first competition, they sent a tank with a mock-up gun and turret by accident because they made a filing because they were competent when shipping it and they shipped the wrong one,
Oh, bloody hell.
which led to the M48 winning the trial.
I'm gonna ask a question.
No, because of Vickers influences, they were able to get that trial done again with a new tank they shipped out. The next tank they shipped out didn't have a fucking engine,
Yeah.
as it was the gunnery training platform for testing the gun and the turret. So it didn't have its drivetrain installed. That's the level of incompetence we're talking about in management here.
Anyway, so
And so Nigeria bought the bullet and bought somewhere else at a significant upmarket uprate.
Yeah. Right. There you are. That's
I'm going to ask a question here real quick.
Go on.
Do you think, after they acquire Napier, that we might see English Electric try and get into the shipbuilding game?
No.
No, that's not. It's not their cup of tea. It's really not.
English Electric is doing the funny, we now dominate the aircraft industry.
Yeah,
But you're an electric company. Well, we bought most of them.
It's like, don't you fucking cross us, you son of a... I'll throw a missile at you that happens to look like a lightning.
Yeah. And
Don't you
they also
cross
have
me.
minority stakes in pretty much fucking everything.
It's the English Electric world. We're just living in it. Move over, Vickers. It's their turn now.
Oh, no, they were just as, if not more, incompetent.
I know, but the joke had to be made. The joke had to be made.
But the issue is, but the thing with English Electric is that they did infrastructure programs where they were a monopoly constructor, so they could afford to be incompetent.
Yeah. Right, okay. So, Chandler or Chandel, which Mandator Model 3 model do you prefer? Fractal Frunger's small, chubby Asserter or the Empire at War Expanded Team's Big Bellator? Both. Both? Both. Both is
Neither.
good.
I don't like the Mandator 3. Like, because the problem is Bellator exists. So,
He's implying that Bellator is Mandator 3.
but it's not. Mandator 3 and Bellator are categorically different vessels.
And so is Asserter, actually, now that I think about it.
Yes, Asserter's a much bigger one.
Yeah. So... honestly, I don't like either of these. Like, if I have to pick, it'll be something like a Bellator shape. But if I'm given a choice outside of them, I want the original Star Wars The Clone Wars mods Mandator. I want that one. It looks...
That
What?
second one is basically Bellator. It's Bellator upscaled.
Yeah, but anyway, the point I was trying to make is I much prefer the original Star Wars, the Clone Wars, Pride of the Core, with that very nice shape it had.
Yeah, a lot of people hate that.
I love it. I like it. I like that.
I like it as a product of. This is the difference. It's why I dislike the drastic change with Mandator 3 and I'm talking about Mandator 4. Bellator makes sense as it's almost a new lineage.
Yeah, yeah. A model, yeah. We know you're referring to the
Smallest-
models.
I don't like-
rather than
I don't
the-
like it being small Asserter because that just makes no sense.
Yeah,
And it being bigger Bellator also doesn't mesh right. It always feels like, oh, well, we couldn't come up with something, so we'll just, what's the Bellator? We'll just upscale
also-
that a bit and change
I also
it.
liked. I know it's not really canon anymore, but I liked the old Mandator shape that it had. Because it didn't look like it was trying to be an Imperial ship. It looked like it was,
Which Mandate are we talking here?
the original Pride of the Core, the OG.
Right.
I like
the
that
Mandate
shape.
2, this is why you need to be specific.
Yeah, I like that shape, and I wish they kept that shape for Mandator 3. I like the shape. I know it's a bit weird. I like the sort of, like, it bulges in the middle. You got the end. Yeah, that one. Yeah, I like the way that looks. I like it. I like that whole aesthetic. I like what it's got, because it's representably, you can tell it's a KDY ship, but it's not anything that comes later. I like it. I am
So
a
much
simple
made it for Pride of the Core.
I am a
for Armada.
I am a simple man. I like simple things.
We know you like the Hosh.
Shush. Oh boy. I guess we're doing one of these for the end of the ramblings, I see. Alrighty then. You'll see why I said that in just a second.
And the ramblings.
Knight6831 asks, unless anyone else has anything they wish to add on this whole Mandator MacGuffin discussion.
Mm-mm.
I can't speak my own language. You know what? I'm putting that on a fucking mug. I can't speak my own language. I'm putting that on a mug. That's a catchphrase.
I'm sorry, but that phrase has already been copyrighted by most minority groups.
Fucking, that's not a... I can't speak my own language.
Yeah.
That's copyrighted. Are you kidding me?
Probably. I know, for example, 8% of most Irish people can't speak Irish.
We're not even going to get started on the Welsh.
Well, I'm in a better situation than the Irish.
And then, unironically, I actually, one of my friends from Norway has basically said, yeah, no, from tests coming out in Norway, most Norwegians speak better English than Norwegian.
I can believe
like,
it.
the Norwegian language is starting to falter.
I can believe it.
Laughs Britishly.
I can believe it. My cousin's marrying a Norwegian girl, and she speaks much better English than she does Norwegian.
How do you know you don't speak Norwegian?
Well, that's what he said.
I was going to say, if you say you can speak a bit of Finnish that's close enough, I would have a few people who would need to beat you over the head.
Knight 6
Yeah,
Knight 683
I'd flip it and send it to Team U.
Knight 6831 asks, if the British Empire had not declined, would it make sense that similar to AAO Plessy Midas combat system, that a similar to AAO Plessy Midas combat system is developed? Would it be English Electric Company, Marconi, or Plessy who develop it? Well, you're still going to need something like that.
Well, okay, no. First things first. English Electric and
That's a little
Marconi Company merge in 1960.
Oh, is that why there was a hyphen? Is that why there was a hyphen there? Oh, that's why there was a hyphen there. Right.
And in 1963, English Electric and J. Lyons & Co.
Right.
formed the English Electric Leo Company.
Right.
And then in 1986, they merged with Associated Electric Industries, but they are the junior partner, so they lose the name.
Aww.
So, what's the question?
If the British Empire had not declined, would it make sense that a similar to AAO Plessy Midas combat system is developed?
AAO
Plessy.
Plessy.
It's in Stream Q&A. It's in Stream Q&A. You can copy and paste it from there.
Okay.
Would it be the General Electric Company, Marconi, or Plessy who would develop it? I have no bloody idea. I'm doubling this and passing it to Foxo.
I don't know what this was either. I
Me
couldn't
neither.
find it on the Google.
Yeah, no, I agree. Considering the things I'm finding when trying to come up with this is the matter irradiation dissociative electric acceleration system, or the magic spells of Aurum from Elder Scrolls. Plessy brings up the Electric Defense Company.
Wait. Plessy's the company. AO Plessy is the company name. You take that out, it's the Midas Combat System.
Yeah, but
the
when
Midas Combat System is specifically the Maritime Intelligence and Decimation Analysis System.
Right, that's not what comes up. Because Midas also refers to the Missile Defense Alarm System, the Marine Air Defense Integration System, the Mission Display and Analysis
but
System.
I don't think they're related to Plessy.
No, which is why I'm very, very confused over what's meant to be where here.
Like, it's night watching.
Yes. That's what I'm
Can you say
It's
which
from the
night?
Against All Odds alt history.
Okay, my brother in Christ, please, for the love of all that you hold holy and dear, like asking loaded questions on naval history Q&As, when you are using a non-common acronym, don't use the
Specify.
acronym, spell it out.
Or at least say it's from Against All Odds.
Because AAO and Midas are all very different systems.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
so-
the only Midas that I found was the Missile Defense Alarm System, which was a United States Air Force IR early warning satellite.
As I said, I've come up with a lot more than just that.
Well, you got better Google foo than I do, that's for damn certain.
Have you heard of brackets? They help narrow search terms.
Have you heard of I'm lazy and forget my Boolean operators
Right.
constantly?
By the sheer fact, Runon, that the US has two different Midas systems, the Missile Defense Alarm System, as you talked about, but also the Marine Air Defense Integrated Systems is referred to as Midas.
Yeah, and then you've got coming out of the woodwork,
Right,
you've got
that
the
is-
Maritime Intelligence System.
Listen, the United States federal government likes to think that they have the golden touch, and many times they have
Mi-
the Midas touch.
Midas is the TL equivalent to OTL Aegis.
Right, okay, so Against All Odds, I thought it was used on the Type 26 Centurion cruiser, guided missile cruiser, where British was in service in a few navies around the world, including the Royal Navy, Royal Canadian Navy, Royal New Zealand Navy, and Royal Netherlands Navy.
Why does the US not have Aegis?
I think it's a British version of it that does a version that does a similar job.
Well, in that case, then, yeah, of course, there's going to be an Aegis-style system if the threats are...
Yeah, it's an air
but
defense
is it-
system.
But it's asking, would it be done by the General English Electric or Plessy?
There is no bloody way to know that beyond writing speculative fiction.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure that's literally what AAO is.
No, I know that, but at that point, then...
This is the first time I've heard of AAO, to be fair, but...
Yeah,
It would probably be done by AAO
By AAO?
because
Where's AAO coming into this? Do you mean Plessy or...
yeah, Plessy.
Right.
Because Associated Quickers. Aegis is a 1970s and 80s thing, isn't it? So, assuming things have gone as historical with English Electric, massive assumption, then the Associated Electrical Industries probably wouldn't get involved because they largely pulled out of the military market due to being non-competitive with American systems.
Apparently in AAO, the communist Americans use Typhon 2 combat system, which I presume is just Aegis under a different name. Given that for it to be anything else would be laughable.
The idea of the UK developing this by themselves is laughable.
I mean, if they are this whole non-declined British Empire, which in AAO they are, then I can see it. I don't agree with the whole non-declined British Empire as a trope. I think the decline is inevitable. But if you are going to have this, if you are going to have this nation exist, and it is going to have global commitments, then you are going to need an Aegis system in the 70s. You are. You're going to need to start developing something like it in the 70s for proliferation in the 80s. That's just... If you are to be a major maritime naval power, you need something like it.
Because the issue is the fact that AEI, after it merges with English Electric, pulled out of a lot of military contracts because they get outcompeted by the Americans and the American transistors, because they were very late to the uptake of the transistor.
Hmm.
Or were they?
Ta-da!
Yes.
No, they were.
Which, then again, did this change us that much? You're wanting me to rewrite 60, 70 years of corporate history. I know someone's going to bring it up. The transistor had been a thing in the UK since the late 50s. It was what we'd call the micro transistor, with the advent of microelectronics, that the Americans took the bag and ran off with.
Don't worry, we handed it off to the Taiwanese and the Koreans.
Yeah.
Obviously, the only reason for that in the first place was because of the fact that AT&T, because of their monopoly on phone bill on the phones, had to publish all their research into anything not phones. That we even have it, but that's a whole different story.
Also, if you want to say that,
so-
to be fair, Fox, the transistors were also a thing in World War II. The Germans had them, and then they properly patented them in 1947.
Yeah, but the issue isn't transistors, it's the micro transistor.
Right, how micro are we talking here?
Because
they're not exactly big.
We're talking the entire thing being measured in millimeters, in like
right.
10, 15 millimeters here.
Right.
Which
I'm sorry to use my host privileges here for just a second, but to do so, I want to do so properly, so I'm not stepping on anyone's toes. Can we wrap this question up ideally as quickly as you can? Because I do want to make the next question the last question and give it the full 15 minutes. I want to try and give it before we actually wrap up for the night.
Okay. Because the very small transistor that becomes the basis of modern microelectronics comes out as early as it does in America because of AT&T, as Turris pointed out, and quite a ferocious pattern war going on over vacuum tubes and the manufacturing of vacuum tubes and manufacturing of circuitry. And any timeline where you don't have that sort of extreme corporate pressure / backstabbing / profit seeking / oh god, we've made lawyers trillionaires, you would like to see a lot later adoption of the transistor, because early on the microtransistor is worse at its job than a vacuum tube. Anyway, so
the final
does
question.
Knight want me to write?
Sorry, go on.
And anything more of that would be corporate fan fiction. So yeah, go on for later.
Yeah. So the final question for this evening is from Chandler Chandel, who asks, Admiral, you're put in charge of Task Force 16 with the following units in 21 ABY. Prior to the core, Modernized Mandator 2, Refit Essentials, has Speed of Bellator as your flagship and centerpiece, 2 Mediators, yay, Constellator and Second Thought, 12 Republic-class Star Destroyers, 12 Nebula-class Star Destroyers, 4 Mon Calamari Heavy Carriers, 48 Bothan-class Assault Cruisers, 197 Corona-class Frigates. Your task is to pacify the remaining Imperial warlords who refuse to comply with the Bastion Accords in the northeastern quarter of the galaxy, reassure the region's member worlds that the New Republic and deter the Imperial Remnant, the Corporate Sector Authority, and the Hot Cartels from doing anything stupid. Well, the Hot Cartels are not a problem. They're bloody in the southwestern edge of the galaxy. From doing anything stupid. And also, again, the Corporate Authority are in the northeastern... Oh, northeastern, sorry. Yeah, but the Hot Cartels aren't a problem. They're in the southeastern part. Reassure the member worlds that the New Republic corporate hut stupid. Your deployment will last 8 years. How do you organize this force to best fulfill your mission? Quick clarifying addition: you do not have hindsight. You do not know that the Vuzan Vong are going to invade in 25 ABY. Okay. I need some fucking information. What the hell are the Bastion Accords?
In particular, it is the agreement made from Bastion, as you would probably guess, about remaining Imperial territory.
Right.
In particular, it's basically the formal, yes, we lose. We accept that we've lost.
But don't kill us outright, for God's sake, please.
In particular, it was almost forced through by Pelion. Because, yeah, no, we've lost. The thing is, it's put it at a weird time, because it's 21 ABY. When the Bastion Accords technically is done in 15 and 16 BBY.
I think any warlords that would have been resisting would have been squashed by that point, you would think.
Well, there's not many warlords left.
Yeah, Pelion. One of Pelion's big things was basically reuniting the warlords for one last campaign to try and fix the borders in a situation that wasn't indefensible.
Well, I tried this multiple times. It didn't really work.
Did the Empire ever consider getting good?
Well,
yes.
Well,
did so multiple times, in fact.
Yeah. Basically, you have multiple periods during the whole New Republic period that the Empire gets good. You've got the Thrawn period. You've got and basically the reason that the New Republic signs a peace treaty is that Pelion is the Empire consistently getting good.
Yeah, 17 BBY he starts proposing, and then it's 19 BBY it's officially signed on board the Imperial One Star Destroyer Chimera.
Damn,
God, I'm making turbo fuel.
Damn, that thing survived all that time. Chimera herself.
Yeah.
Damn, she had a good life.
What's it called? She fought through the Yuuzhan Vong War. She was, she disappeared for a while. She then reappeared in the Galactic Civil War, the second one.
What?
Finally, after that, it was last seen in battle in, 44 ABY.
Jesus. I'm gonna, Dragon, I'm gonna
she was never destroyed.
Fuck, now, where do I go from here? Now, because problem is, if I'm operating in the Northeast and I'm not conducting offensive operations because I'm not at war with anybody, and I'm here to reassure, because as far as I'm aware, by the time we're talking about Pelion, Imperial territory is in the northwestern part of the galaxy, not the northeastern. We're not at war with the Hutts. We're not at war with the corporate sector. We're just patrolling. We're basically heavily patrolling New Republic space. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I approach that. And, well, we've got the whole problem with the Vuzan Vong arriving nearly halfway into my deployment, but I'm not sure how I deal with that because, again, I'm in the northeast. I'm not in the western part of the galaxy where the massive angry spiky boys are bashing their way into the galaxy.
Yeah, that's already been dealt with.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking, Dragon. Like, what is there to do beyond just float around in space and look pretty?
The Empire of the Hand, I guess, pops up in 22 ABY, but they don't really go on the offensive. They're more just a case of, because that's when Luke learns of them. And when, unironically, it requires him being trapped underground, almost drowning, before Mara Jade finally says, "Look, I am marrying you one way or another."
Get hitched, bitch.
What? Basically, yeah, since you don't know the Vong is coming, you're mostly doing peace patrols, I would have said.
Yeah.
Because realistically, the forces you've got, unless all major warlords have been taken out by this period.
What I've got is overkill for policing. Massively so.
Yes, ABY is after Battle of Yavin.
Unless I'm stationing myself over Mon Calamari as a symbol of New Republic commitment to the Mon Calamari. Which is where I would be in the northeast. It would be my fleet anchorage in the northeast.
The Moffs aren't going to try anything because basically Pelion
Moffs?
would beat them over the head again. The
Pelion's
Moffs
gotten...
are part of the reason why they lost so much.
Yeah, Pelion basically broke and then reforged the Imperial command structure. It's weird. He almost, in a sense, Old Republic, as in the pre-Galactic Empire Republic, the Empire's officer corps. He basically gutted a lot of the party politics and political power grabs and restyled it as, yes, it's a military government, but it's a... He basically he unempired the Imperial military, which is a weird thing to say, but he did.
Or did he?
No, he did.
He did, because the Empire's structure internally was built to preserve the authority at the top, not to be a competent fighting force. He turned it into a competent fighting force.
And it's amazing what you can do if you try that.
It's amazing what you can do with a blank check and a blaster revolver.
What happened to Thrawn's aide-de-camp?
You know, I don't know.
Which one?
Yeah, which
The one that he
Eli.
got stuck. Hang on, let me finish because I have no idea what his name is. The one that he got stuck with after he got picked up. by
Canon
the-
or Legends? Like that
I
one
don't
is the
know.
important one.
Has
New
Thrawn-
books or old books?
I don't know. I think it was one of the few books that got carried over into canon.
We're fucked!
Give me a moment to
So then it's
get
Eli,
it.
Eli Vanto then is who you're looking for more
It's
than
a
I
throne.
can't just fart and have the book appear in my hands. I have to move to go get it.
Jelly Fuel Lamau.
What you
Fuck
don't
off.
just, you aren't just surrounded by like 7 bookshelves all within
I
like,
left my Stretch Armstrongs at Lake Anna.
I'm sorry. Has Grandma forgotten that she's got a computer?
Foxo,
That's
you're
cannot
on
be
thin
such-
ice. You're on thin ice, Foxo. Jesus. Don't
I'm
be
assuming
mean.
that
Please.
Runon is referring to the Thrawn book because, as I said, you've got the original Hand of Thrawn trilogy. You've then got the Thrawn trilogy, and then the Hand of Thrawn duology, which is Legends. Those were rendered non-canon with the whole Legends kerfuffle. You've then got the new Thrawn trilogy, then the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, which are canon.
Yes,
pa-
it is. It is still by Timothy Zahn.
Yep,
It
all
was
the
published
Thrawn
in 2018.
Yep, so it's the new one then with the blue pages.
The blue
no, Mine
pages.
has white pages.
Yeah, I know you've got the inferior one. The original set
Fuck
of releases.
off!
The original set of releases have a what's called blue coating on the exterior pages.
That's so hard
Fuck
to
off.
read.
Correction, that was the Ascendancy. Sorry, not the original one, but yeah. But basically, Eli Vanto actually has a very important bit of history after that. After the first book, he ends up getting sent to the Chiss, where he technically gets a demotion in rank, but starts working under Admiral Alani, mostly going through lots and lots of spreadsheets, because who would have guessed he's an amazing data analyst. He thinks that this isn't very good until Admiral Alani finally decides to let him on the secret at the end of the third book of, so turns out what you've been going through is actually all of the information related to the Chiss Skywalker program. And you've actually been instrumental to find little bits of data that actually let you go, okay, this child's likely to be force sensitive.
Damn.
He then
the
also...
Chiss
Hmm?
Doing a eugenics program now?
No, but basically how the Chiss navigate in their territory is they use force sensitives to help guide the ship, because standard computers cannot deal with the unpredictability of, quite literally, the chaos area, which is what the aerospace is known as. So they use
Chaos?
force sensitives to help guide their ship through basically micro jumps or long range jumps as needed. Because otherwise you would need to do, yes, I've been in hyperspace 5 minutes right now, where am I? Right, do repeat. And it's something that only the Chiss have outside of the Navigators Guild, which is a much more limited thing. The weird thing is that it's only available in Chiss females, and they usually lose the power by the time they reach 16. Which is why they
Questionable
have to use.
story.
Which is why they have to use children. No, like it's a straight up thing of, because the Ascendancy books follow on from a former Chiss navigator, who basically thought her life was at an end because she lost the power to navigate ships, and well, Thrawn didn't see and went into a restricted area and actually basically told her, you continue on like the rest of us, and managed to make the little girl not want to commit suicide.
Not wanting to uninstall one's free trial of life is generally considered to be a
But
good
you're about
thing.
to say something there, Foxo.
Yeah, so this is basically discount navigators.
Unironically, it's why you've got the Navigators Guild.
Yeah,
Which
so
is-
for once, Warhammer wasn't the one copying, it was the one being copied.
Yes. Though then again, one would argue that Warhammer copied it
That
from
they-
Dune.
Yeah, I was just about to say, well, yeah, but then there's a worm-shaped object looming over Warhammer on that one.
Yeah, and then we just tell people what people did with the popcorn buckets for Dune, and they tend to shut up.
You need to tell people what they did with those popcorn buckets. I thought
Yes,
that
because
story
most
just
of the-
wrote itself.
Yes, because most are blissfully ignorant.
No, please don't tell me that I vote that people who are that ignorant vote.
Yes, they do.
No. I'm surrounded by idiots.
But yeah, so in regards to the question, basically, yeah, fleets, it's police force. Fleet's actually correct on one of these things once, because what are they going to do? Right.
You're not wrong, but ouch.
See, no, look, no. I'll admit I have clear biases. I dig my heels in too often, and I'm usually wrong on things. But occasionally, very occasionally, I'm right.
Right.
You're
Okay.
a failed follower of Shigalag.
Okay, Patch.
What?
You have brought this cursed abomination onto people. Yes. That is the popcorn bucket for Dune.
Oh no!
It is meant
Oh no!
to be a
Wait,
Dune worm
stop.
jumping up.
Stop. We are not on Picardo. We are on YouTube.
It's why I posted in the Discord chat. It's why I'm not. Specifying
All I am
exactly
going
what
to
it's
say
for.
is, oh no, oh dear God, no.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
And-
worry, it's
and-
silicone and it's food safe, so you should be okay.
And on that bombshell, it is time to end. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you for coming. Obviously, tune in tomorrow on Twitch for Transport Fever 2. And on Sunday for Transport Fever 2. We're doing really well, actually. We're doing really, really well in terms of actual funding. We might make Twitch funding 2 months in a row, which would be great. I might actually make enough money to do this sort of thing. Thanks to the Patreons, Timu Locker, Brandon Larson, Brackman. Thank you to those 3 who really do help prop up the they really do help prop up the channel. Cannot thank them enough. And thank you to the people who just give me a little bit of money to keep myself going. C Dodders and Paul Amos. You two as well, just really keep the channel going. Yeah. Can't thank you guys enough. To those who watch on Twitch, again, thank you very much. I am currently between jobs right now, so anything you chaps choose to give, it helps Fleet keep going. It makes me go faster. Thank you to the panel. Take care, everyone.